Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this A&P live stream, special live stream. That's because I finally got my hands on a good, decent copy of Shin Ultraman with English subtitles. Don't ask me how I did it, but I did. And joining me, as always when it comes to anything kaiju and tokusatsu, is my good friend Lucas. Lucas, say hello.
Hello everyone, it is me once again, back on an AM production stream, and I must say, that is one of my favorite sayings.
Oh, I feel honored. Thank you very much. I love having you on just because we can nerd out about like the most obscure Japanese kaiju things. I still think the X from Outer Space is like the best live stream
That was a great time.
I've had in a long. I've done in a long time.
You realize what I did there, right?
No, it went over my head.
Oh, really?
Now I feel really bad.
Alien Mephiles, bro. He says that they're shit in the movie.
Oh yes. Well, to show everybody just how tired I am, here's a Monster Energy drink that I'm going to open. It's low carb, so I can still drink it on my diet.
Thank God.
Thank God, right? Let me just bring up my fancy lower third just to show you how great I am. But yes, I finally did it. I watched Shin Ultraman. And actually, I wanted to, if we can just get right into it, I actually wanted to start with you, Lucas.
Hi.
What did you... Well, first off, what is your history with Ultraman?
Okay,
Because
so...
I think you know, believe it or not, a little bit more about Ultraman, not in terms of the history of Ultraman, but at least in terms of the show
Yeah.
than I do.
So my history with Ultraman is actually, it does another thing where it stems from my dad showed it to me. You know, like I watched Godzilla growing up, he showed me the movies, and Ultraman was another one that he showed me. Like he, I think, would catch Ultraman when he was young. I think it aired here, but it was still like he only had a black and white TV at times, so he didn't have it like in color or anything. But I remember like years ago when I was a kid, it was like 6th grade, he got like a full set of like the original show, and I don't remember like which set specifically it is because I know there's a bunch of those, but he showed me that and I watched that with him obviously, and I grew to like Ultraman, and I just think Ultraman's a cool character in general, and as I've gotten older and I've appreciated tokusatsu a little more, I've liked Ultraman more, but there is so much. There is a lot.
That has been my deterrence as well.
Yeah.
That there is just so much of it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's a very similar situation to Star Trek in many ways, and like how like I understand why a lot of people don't want to get into Star Trek because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
And I never had that with Star Wars before, but now I have that with Star Wars too. And then there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe where I'm like, there's so much of it, I don't think you could ever watch it all.
The big one for like anime and stuff like that is like One Piece. I don't know if you've heard of One Piece or not. It's been going on for years, like as a manga and anime, and it's good. It's really good. It's just there's so much of it.
There's just a lot of it, right?
There's a lot. It's really hard to like hop into that one.
Yeah, I get it. Oh well, glad everyone is here. Glad you guys are joining in the chat too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta tell you, Lucas, I'm not a big fan of Ultraman.
We've had our moments. I know we've had conversations about it before in the past, but yeah.
I respect the fuck out of Ultraman.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I get why people love him, but I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that I had was Ultraman Tiga. I think that's how you pronounce it. It was the one from 2000.
Yep, because that was the one that aired on the Fox Box block.
100%.
Yep. I knew it.
Yep, that's when I watched it. I remember distinctly that was also the thing that introduced me to two-parters, because I remember one episode ended on a cliffhanger, and I was so pissed. I was like, where's the rest of the story? You can't do that.
Did I ever tell you how my story about the 90s Spider-Man cartoon with that kind of situation?
I think you have, but you should tell it again here anyways. Yeah.
It was literally the episode where it was the arc that follows Spider-Man mutating into like Man Spider. and the episode ends with him fully mutating, but it's just silhouetted, and you see like the 6 red eyes. It said to be continued, and the next week was the follow-up episode, but I had soccer practice and I had to miss it. And let me tell you, I was not fucking happy that soccer practice.
Well, I gotta sports and nerds don't mix very well, I've discovered. because we have this mentality where it's like we have to all nerds have this mentality where it's like we have to absolutely see the next episode.
Yeah.
We have to. And sports got in the way of that cuz I had basketball.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have football, but I probably would have played football if it wasn't for that. But that was it, and even that I didn't really pay attention to. I was too young to really comprehend what this was, other than hey, it's kind of like Godzilla, just not as cool.
Well, I'm kind of curious because like Ultraman Tiga aired on, as I said, the Fox Box block, which eventually became 4Kids, and 4Kids was always infamous about like their dubs and everything. I am curious about how that dub was treated versus like other shows they've done, or if they even dubbed it. They may have not even dubbed it.
They probably didn't dub it.
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember the quality of the dub at all. Like I haven't. What little I've seen of Ultraman Tiga makes me cringe. I know a lot of people love that show and everything like that, but I look at it and I'm like, I hate the frame rate issue with that show, where it's, for some reason everything's super smooth.
Yeah.
I just don't like how it looks.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was like really. Yeah.
It was like super smooth. Like it looked like a soap opera.
The English, it did. Yeah. You're right.
and I don't know why. I don't know why, because none of the other shows look like that.
The Ultraman Tiga like English intro went in. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't remember it.
Searching for a hero, searching for the hero with all the rights.
I can't remember any of it.
And then the chorus was like, Ultraman.
Oh, yes! Oh, I do remember that.
Larger than life, Ultraman.
Yeah.
I do remember that. It's weird little things like that stick in my head like a gnat.
See, I have that with Gigantor.
Oh, the Gigantor English opening's great.
Yeah. Gigantor. Yeah. That used to be on, like, because I used to have to wake up super early, like 5:30 in the morning.
Is in his hand.
Yeah. Yep. That's, classic.
Gigantor was another one my dad introduced me to because he watched that growing up, and I grew to like it.
God, I wish my dad was that cool, in terms of, and at least in terms of what he found interesting of what he watched. Because my dad and I had Star Trek.
Yeah.
But that was about it. He introduced me to Godzilla, don't get me wrong, because he's the one that called me upstairs that Thanksgiving to watch Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Yeah.
But he had no idea what monster he had just
my
created.
dad was also a Trekkie, but I never really got into Trek.
You would probably genuinely love Star Trek.
Totally, I agree with you. I like original and next gen. I would probably really like. Yeah, I mean Wrath of Khan I've seen, and that's a great fucking movie. Like I know that's the obvious one.
Wrath of Khan is like the end all be all. It's not just it's the classic example of it's not just a good Star Trek movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Totally.
But one of the greatest movies, actually. I'd argue. But have you seen Ultra Q?
Well, if you look right over here, yes, I have. I haven't watched all of it, but I've watched a good amount of it, and I really like Ultra Q actually a lot. I picked up Ultra because when I read into it and learned that it was like kind of like the Twilight Zone a little bit.
Twilight Zone with Kaiju.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I'll give this a go. Sure, why not? And from what I watched, I liked it a lot actually. It is
actually my favorite of those shows.
Yeah,
Because I love the variety that it has.
I like my favorite one that I watched, and it's an early one. I think it was Message from Space. It's the one where with the slug aliens.
Oh yes.
I like that one a lot. The twist genuinely at the end got me. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. It very influenced by the Twilight Zone. Like you can just tell it was.
Yeah.
But with kaiju, so I'm like, you can't beat this. And my favorite one is the one with Goro.
Yeah, that was
good. The ape, just because I was like, this is such a terrible ape costume, but yet somehow they made me care.
Yeah.
In less than 30 minutes. I'm like, you know what? All right. Yeah. Also, you get to see Kenji Sahara, that actor being Kenji Sahara, and I'm like, this is fun.
Now, with
There's
that being
there's
said,
some really creepy episodes in
but there's
that
also
show
some
too.
there's also some other ones that are just like, what was this? And I have
Yes.
to bring it up. The fucking turtle episode.
Mm.
The turtle one
Mhm.
was so like that made me stop. I was like, I need a break.
You need a yeah. Oh,
this is
really?
weird.
Okay.
This is weird. I don't
Yeah,
like this one.
I 100% understand. I think that was where I took a break too. I want to say, like,
the little radar flips up on his back.
yeah, yeah, it's weird as fuck.
That one's weird.
But I tried to watch Ultraman, the original Ultraman show.
It's really formulaic. Like it's really.
Oh, really?
And I don't.
It's frustratingly formulaic.
Yeah, it's very like a lot of the same things per episode. There's some different ones. Like I still think the episode with Alien Bolton is sick. Like I think the entire episode from start to finish is great.
Yeah, that's one of the better ones. I like the Jiris episode.
Jiris one's good.
And not just because he's fighting Godzilla. I like the Jiris episode because I genuinely was like, oh, there's a little something here that I like.
Yeah.
The only one, and I watched I couldn't finish Ultraman 66, unfortunately. I just could not get my way through it.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Ultra 7.
I still have yet to hop onto Ultra 7.
Ultra 7 is a lot better than Ultraman. Because it kind of goes a little bit more balls to the wall in terms of it is still, don't get me wrong, very formulaic.
Yeah.
But it's also considerably more violent.
I was about to say, yeah, wasn't that the one that's like surprisingly more like violent and gory?
Yeah. And that's entertaining to me. I'm like, this is a kid's show. And there's so much bloodshed in this show. But believe it or not, the one Ultraman show that I actually watched from beginning to end and enjoyed was Return of Ultraman, aka Ultraman Jack.
Yeah.
Because it changed the formula a bit. And there's something about that dynamic that he could not change into Ultraman on a whim. Mm-hmm. Like he had to, very specific criteria had to be met in order for him to change into Ultraman. Characters die on that show and everything like that. And the fact it really shows that several of those episodes were directed by Toho veterans. They were directed by Shiro Honda and Jun Fukuda, and it shows. Mm-hmm. You can definitely tell which episodes were Shiro Honda episodes. Like, it still has that Honda style. And I'm like, this is cool. I like this. I didn't really have that with the previous episode or with the previous shows. And I will say this as well. Out of all the shows, Ultraman Jack is gorgeous. Like in terms of how a lot of the monster fights happen. Yeah. Like the way how they're shot, really low angles. And what I like about it is that a lot of them are shot in like a sunset scenario. Oh, so nice. Oftentimes you have like this beautiful glowing red sun in the background creating this beautiful red sky, and it's all these low angles. And like they would shoot through like miniature bridges and they'll have stuff in the foreground, and it really gorgeous looking show. Several episodes of that show just look phenomenal in terms of the action. It's not just handheld camera at eye level like we saw in a lot of other ones. You do get that in Ultraman Jack, don't get me wrong, but
I do think it's because that's actually something exciting to me about Ultraman is that while I'm still a fletchling and like kind of diving really into it, is that I do know that as they go on, it just obviously because naturally the process of passage of time is going to be like technology is going to increase and stuff like that. Yeah. But it does get better. Like it does like production increases like rapidly.
I won't say better because Ultraman Taro and Ultraman 80 are insane.
Okay.
Insane. Lucas, I think it's Ultraman. Is it Ultraman Taro where they get into a dance off? The monsters get into a dance off.
Fuck yeah. I'm into it.
What is it? But no, there's like this moose monster, right? And the kids are like trying to teach him how to dance, and like how does Ultraman defeat this monster? By outdancing him.
This sounds like Super Sentai.
It's.
I mean that lovingly too. It sounds like Super Sentai.
I don't think it's Ultraman Taro.
I'm into it.
I don't think it's Ultraman Taro, and I don't think it's Ultraman 80. And for the record, if you want to know who's mainly responsible for Ultraman 80, it was Noriaki Yuasa, who gave us Showa Gamera.
Oh, okay.
That should explain a lot when it comes to that show.
There was a clip from one of the later Ultraman things. I'm not sure if it's like one of the series or movies where it was like two Ultramen and they're fighting and they kill a kaiju. It explodes in like 3 different like camera angles, and then the 2 Ultramen just do like a fist bump with one another, like a secret handshake. That clip ruled.
Yeah. It is Ultraman Taro. Oh, I'm tempted to play this clip. It's.
If you can pull it up.
I can. I found it. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it because the music makes it.
Oh shit.
I'll send you a link. We'll get live reactions.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah, here it is. It is. Look, it is embarrassing.
Where are you sending it?
I'll send it to you on Skype.
Okay.
In a chat. I remember at work getting recommended this clip and watching it, being like, "What am I doing with my life?"
Chat. Hold on. Okay, I have it here. Any point we're specifically starting it? Or?
Skip to 207.
207. You got it. Okay. Tell me when to hit it.
Give me a second. I'm sorry. I started listening to it. 3, 2, 1, hit it.
Okay. Oh my god.
Yeah. This is Veron. Veron, for those of you who are wondering what we're witnessing.
This rules.
You see, I knew you'd like it. I knew you'd appreciate this.
I love shit like this.
Don't get me wrong. I love it too. But
No,
I'm like,
I get where you're coming from.
If somebody saw me watching this in public, like, what are they thinking?
Like,
you
I'm
know?
in my room by myself watching it, and someone walks in, "Hey, Luke, and I look over the couch like, huh?
It's much easier for me to just say, "Hey, I'm watching porn," than trying to describe whatever the fuck it is I'm watching from Ultraman Taro. Oh shit! And it just keeps going too. Let me see if I can't find where the dance off actually happens.
I love his fucking hands. The camera push-ins too are killing me.
Oh, that was such a thing from the 70s.
They're like, it's clearly
okay,
just
okay. I found it.
All right,
Skip to 9:45 for the dance off. Yeah.
All right, give me just a count. 1 second. Countdown again.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, play.
Okay. He does look like a moose.
Yeah, doesn't he?
His noises.
He's got like 2 dangling balls.
Yeah, wait, yeah, what the? Oh, Taro's gonna fucking show
Taro's
him up.
like,
He's gonna show him the fuck up.
Watch.
Yes! Fuck yeah! That rules.
He dances about as well as I do, so.
Yeah, what are those?
I don't know.
Hit him with the water.
All right, That's enough of Ultraman Taro. Let's just to show you how ridiculous the show is. But I specifically mentioned the original Ultraman to get back onto it.
Yeah.
Because that's clearly what Shin Ultraman wanted to do more than anything else.
Shin Ultraman is almost entirely, I think, original Ultraman
OG
and a little
Ultraman
and a little Ultra Q too. Which I will get into. I'll get into when we officially want to go into it.
But yeah, So did you have any expectations really going into Shin Ultraman? Because you actually got to see it in theaters, didn't you?
I had very high expectations. I was really looking forward to this one, Adam. I was very counting down, waiting for when are we getting a theatrical run? When are we getting it?
Yeah.
When is it happening? And then when they announced it, it was only 2 days. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta really plan my fucking schedule to this.
Yeah. It was not like Shin Godzilla, where Shin Godzilla did so well they actually extended it another week.
Let me correct myself too. It was only 2 days, but one day was subbed and the other day was dubbed, and I was not seeing it dubbed. I was seeing it subbed.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Even though, like Shin Godzilla, it is very hard to watch subtitled because there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown at you at once.
I'm kind of used to it, so it doesn't really faze me too much. But I know what you're saying. But yeah, I was very excited. I had I had friends too who wanted to see it too. We all buddied up and everything. But it was no, I actually think I took off that day just because I didn't really want anything to interfere with it. And I was just I want to just enjoy the day. I want to enjoy the day with friends, and then go see Shin Ultraman.
That sounds like a perfect day to me.
Yeah, it was a great day, and yeah, I went in the theater, and I saw the movie. Contrary to what you think I would do at the theater.
Wow. Unfortunately, because this is the type of movie where I'd be like, Lucas, we have to go together.
Oh, I would have loved to have you come with
yeah. But I moved. And no theaters around here were going to play that. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to wait for it for other means to be able to see it.
This is a little off topic, but I will just mention it. Did you see that they've been re-releasing some of the Heisei Godzilla films, specifically against Mechagodzilla, and they just did Tokyo SOS recently?
I did, and I would have loved to have seen those in theaters anyways, just because they're two classic Godzilla movies, in my opinion.
I almost did against Mechagodzilla, but my friend actually canceled on me for actually kind of a better reason. He went to Alamo to go see Gojira, and I was like, I can't.
Oh no, 100%. Don't even fight. Yeah,
and I couldn't commit to that, unfortunately. But what we're hoping now is because next year is Final Wars, one of its big anniversaries. If they re-release Final Wars, I'm fucking going.
Absolutely.
No question, I'm going.
Yeah. I might be tempted to even come up and visit you if it's on a weekend to just to see that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to take a small commercial break because now I'm shilling for money. So we will be literally right back in about 30 seconds. And, we'll be right back, and we'll actually start talking about Shin Ultraman like we're supposed to be. We're getting there, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope. Yeah, it's the prelude. We have to have the prelude.
Yeah, we have the prelude. We got to build it up.
Everyone I want
anticipation.
To see it.
We gotta bring them back in. Anyways, we'll be right back. Alrighty, as I said, that wasn't too bad. Alrighty, so Shin fucking Ultraman. I was a little bit more dubious with this movie, only because I saw that Shinji Higuchi was the sole director on it. And as much as I love him, as much as I respect him, he has a horrible tendency to direct like it's an anime. Meaning he lets people go really over the top. And with one exception, his remake to Submersion of Japan, which I think is genuinely a good movie. Not as good as the original, but pretty good. Like he directed the 2 Attack on Titan live action movies. A lot of people forget that he did those, and I thought they were okay, but they were lacking to me. Like, I just think they went a little too over the top.
Yeah.
And that's Shinji Higuchi in a nutshell, is that he tends to go big with a lot of his stuff instead of being subtle, which I think Hideaki Anno is unbelievably good at being subtle when he wants to be. And particularly with characterizations. However, well, before we really get into this, well, I'll say it right now. This does not look like a Shinji Higuchi movie. This looks like a Hideaki Anno movie.
Yeah.
Which I think screams a lot to the power of Hideaki Anno's script, since he was the sole writer. The fact that Hideaki Anno was credited as the creative head of production as well. And I also think it screams, because this Shin Godzilla was so successful, we must recreate that style.
Yeah, I felt that too. I felt that too. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I felt that too.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that was a lot of it. Even the opening, I like the little joke that it starts off with the paint swirls and.
I popped off so hard with that. I was so excited because it was literally like opening up like how Ultraman opens up in the original show. It opens up Ultra Q and then the logo bursts. And
it's like, no, this isn't Ultra Q. This is Ultraman. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this. This is okay. And before we get any further, Lucas.
Hi.
What did you think of the movie?
I fucking loved it, Adam. I loved it. I really liked it. How much do you want me to go into it exactly right now?
Don't get into. Do a broad sense of what you liked about it.
Yeah. So what I liked about it was, and this was what a lot of people kind of thought, and a lot of people kind of talked about with it, is that like it is Showa Ultraman to a core, like down to like this. Like the big thing, like when like that first trailer I think for it dropped, was when Ultraman does the Ultra Beam, even though it's like an HD movie, the beam effect still looks like the old beam effect. Like it looks like it's stylized to look like that still. I really like that about it. And I think they did a good job of like adapting, if this makes sense, adapting episodes of a television show into just a cohesive movie from start to finish. And that I really liked it. Like I really like, I went in positive, I left positive, and that's always a good sign to me. Like I had very few complaints. I was very pleasantly pleased.
Which is interesting because I have read nothing but negative reviews about this thing.
Really?
Nothing but negative reviews. Me, literally nothing but negative reviews. However, what might explain a lot of these negative reviews is the fact that most of them were from people on Toho Kingdom.
Oh.
And they are awful. Yeah, and they are like, anything that is made after the 80s is not true tokusatsu, and I'm like, you guys are such full of shit.
Nah. Nah, I gotta hit you with the biggest nah, bro.
Like I was reading a review by Patrick Galvin, who I used to be friends with, and I'm like, I think you, and this is before I saw Shin Ultraman when I read his review, since it didn't have any spoilers in it. Not that I really cared. And I just was reading his review, and I'm like, I think you're missing the point of the movie. I really do. And then I saw that he also apparently didn't really like Shin Godzilla either. And he was one of those people that were like calling Shin Godzilla nothing but nationalistic trash. Okay. And stuff like that. And I'm like, no, guys, come on. God, what the fuck? But you know, as I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of the OG Ultraman. So when I heard that this goes OG Ultraman really hard, I was actually a little concerned. Because I was like, you know what? I bet you Ultraman fans are going to like that. I don't know how I would like that.
Yeah, I understand it.
And I will gladly say that I also really loved the movie.
Fuck yeah.
I have big issues with it. Don't get me wrong. Do I think it's as good as Shin Godzilla? Fuck no. But I went into this movie knowing full well that could not happen.
Yeah, Adam, I'm gonna also jump in on that really quick too. I had no intention going into Shin Ultraman thinking, oh, this is gonna be even better than Shin Godzilla. It's like, I don't think that was gonna be the case, period. And I didn't want to put it on that level because I don't think that was fair to Shin Ultraman at all. I don't think that was completely fair to even do. Adam?
Did I just hear? Oh no, I thought I just heard something. Anyways,
Okay.
I'm sorry. But yeah, it's like you got to have realistic expectations when you go into something too.
Yeah.
And I saw the. I was like, Shin Godzilla is such lightning in a bottle that I'm like, it's like you can't top it. It's like the original Godzilla. It was like no matter what they did, it's like you can't top it. And you know, I had that going into this. Plus, there was the whole Shinji Higuchi thing, which I'm gonna say this right now. I can tell Hideaki Anno didn't direct this movie, despite it looking like a Hideaki Anno movie. And the reason why is because it almost took the Hideaki Anno style to an extreme. Like to me, it almost felt like it was imitating Hideaki Anno's style more than being a Hideaki Anno movie.
I think I can understand. Yeah, I can get that take.
And I also would like to say that it makes sense too, because the style that Hideaki Anno emulates is based heavily off of, and he cites this guy as his favorite director too, a guy named Kaihachi Okamoto, who is, out of all my favorite Japanese directors, he's on my top 3. If you want to know who he is the photo of Goro Maki from Shin Godzilla, the crazy doctor. That's that was his little cameo. That's Kaihachi Okamoto. But he if you watch a Kaihachi Okamoto movie, in particular a movie called Fork Graveyard and then Japan's Longest Day, the way how they're shot and edited and paced is identical to Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman.
Okay.
Like, never does a shot reverse shot. It's always really weird low angles. It cuts on action. You know, it's rapid fire. Every character is introduced with a subtitle. There's lots of like subtitles popping up all over the screen telling you where you are, and it's supposed to do that to build tension. Even as samurai movies do that. And it's like, this is why when I went in to see Shin Godzilla for the first time, I picked up on the style immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my god, this is like Japan's Longest Day. Oh my god, that's one of my favorite fucking movies. And I'm like, this is fucking great. This is what I want. But the thing that I also noted about Shin Ultraman is that it's different from Shin Godzilla in more ways than one. The biggest one that it separates the two is that Shin Godzilla is very much so a procedural movie. Mm-hmm. Ultraman is not. And I think that paired with that radical style of filmmaking that they have, hurt it.
Okay.
Because I do agree with a lot of the criticisms that I think Shin Ultraman should have been a half hour longer.
Really?
It should have been about a half hour longer, and I think some of our characters needed to be developed a lot more.
Okay.
If they stuck with a strict procedural movie, like Shin Godzilla.
Yeah. Okay, I can understand that.
I would be much more forgiving about our characters not being more fleshed out.
Yeah, it definitely, because like also I feel like they introduce a lot of they basically introduce you a whole crew that you're following throughout the movie, and there's like 4 or 5 people, and it's like like in the amount of time you're given, I feel like you do. That is a good point. That is, you only kind of really focus on like two or three most of the main members, and the other ones are just kind of there a little bit. And some of their arcs seem to go like kind of like you don't even realize they had an arc until they have a moment, and it's like, oh, okay, I can actually understand that a little bit. Yeah, that's a good actually.
Well, in particular, the girl that likes to slap her own ass.
Right, I forgot about that.
her character and Shin Ultraman, the alien.
Yeah.
They needed more character. I wanted a connection with them that I didn't get.
Really? I mean, I feel like I had it with Ultraman.
I have it more with him than I do with the girl.
Yeah.
But yeah. I needed them because they constantly talk about, we're buddies.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big thing with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, why? Tell me why.
Yeah.
Show me why.
Yeah.
why that was the case. Yeah, so that was a big deal. And to me, if you just had those two be good characters, like really rounded three-dimensional characters, like really decent characters, because there were the inklings of that there.
Okay.
That I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It just needed to go a little bit further for me. I think this movie would have been significantly better. I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of rewatched it today too, so just kind of prepped myself for it. And I noted what was interesting was I noticed a lot more that I didn't notice on my first viewing.
I really wanted to rewatch it before the stream tonight, but I just really honestly had no time, and two, I didn't have a source to even rewatch it, so. Yeah.
I was lucky. Like, I just happened to come across this, and I'm like, oh, I gotta now. But still, still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Still enjoyed it. One of the biggest complaints, and I want to know what you got away with this, because personally, this doesn't bug me at all.
Sure.
But a lot of people have complained how the movie, which makes me go, oh, then they better watch out for Shin Kamen Rider. A lot of people have complained how Shin Ultraman, and even Shin Godzilla to an extent, but it really does it in Shin Ultraman, jumps from a cine camera to an iPhone all the time.
I will be honest with you. I don't think I noticed it. I think I was too busy like focusing on the movie that I noticed that. But here's my thing with that is something like that naturally in general, even like regarding tokusatsu, regarding any kind of like whether it's Western or Eastern media, I don't really get bothered by that unless it's really glaringly obvious. Like there have been movies that I have watched where the aspect ratio will change mid-movie because they filmed with a different camera, and you can see the bars change, and that to me is something that bothers me.
Oh yeah, we've actually, I remember we've talked about that.
Yeah, my example wasn't the best one. It was Transformers: The Last Night, but just stick with me. Yeah, because that movie would because they filmed on like a 3D IMAX camera that was new at the time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they just did not compensate at all for the aspect ratio. Like you see the bars change from time.
Yeah.
Because they're fast cuts too. Because it's Michael Bay directing it. It's like fast cuts. So you see it happen all the time, and it's like, that just did not look pretty. Also, that movie just wasn't good. But
see, it's really funny because the aspect ratio thing, it did bug me in that, because of how frequently it switched.
Yeah.
But like Christopher Nolan switches aspect ratios all the time, and that it's never bothered me in his movies.
No, it's doable. Like I actually, another example I have. Sorry, I just did some more real quick.
Tron Legacy is another one that.
Tron Legacy is good. My one is actually this is a show, not a movie, but I think it was the season premiere of Mandalorian season 2. In that episode, the Mandalorian comes across a group of Tusken Raiders, and they have to take down a crate dragon. And the reveal of the crate dragon, when that crate dragon comes out, the aspect ratio changes with it, and it's really cool. It's actually really well done. It's super sick.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the scene you're talking about. And I thought that was cool too.
Yeah, genuinely, really cool. Really effective too, because again, it's the crate dragon. It's a huge like monster that they haven't really ever shown before. So it was really well done. It was really well earned too, honestly. Like, yeah. So it can be done. It can totally be done. It just depends on how well it's done. And the reason why I bring it up is that truthfully, I didn't notice the change between the two cameras. Now that you mention it to me, when I rewatch it, I'll definitely pay attention to that.
I can notice the change. I can, and a lot of it goes down to what the shutter speed is.
Okay.
You really see it in that awesome Shin Kamen Rider clip that came out. Ooh. How that flips back and forth between 4 different cameras. That goes from an Arri Alexa to an HD camcorder to a GoPro to an iPhone. And I can tell the difference with every camera, and I didn't care. Because it was awesome.
I am so sold on Shin Kamen Rider.
Me too. And I know jack shit about Kamen Rider other than Starfish Hitler from Kamen Rider X.
Yeah.
But
Kamen Rider is a series I've always wanted to get into, but again, it's another case where there's just so fucking much, and I'm just like, I don't have time.
Here's the thing though. that is Hideaki Anno to a T.
Yeah, yeah,
That is Hideaki Anno's baby. Almost more so than Shin Godzilla.
yeah.
Because that he wrote it, he's directing it, he's editing it. That is his baby.
It's gonna be it's gonna be good. I have full faith.
It's going to be good. In Anno, I trust.
Yep. Yep.
With Shin Ultraman, it didn't really bother me too much. Basically, in Shin Ultraman, you can really tell with the shutter speed, because you'll suddenly notice movements get a lot sharper when it's shot on an iPhone, and you'll also notice the unbelievable... They really got into using that new... It was new at the time. Super wide angle feature that a lot of iPhones had.
Okay.
And so basically every shot that was like a super wide angle, which there's a lot of it in Shin Ultraman, that was an iPhone. And personally, I thought it was really fucking cool. Like, yeah, it made me go like, I want to make something now. I want to go out there with my Android phone and just shoot something and just go crazy.
Yeah, like really, I'll look forward to when I rewatch it when it like comes out on Blu-ray. But that honestly, like, that's kind of really cool that like this movie used iPhone along with like actual film grade cameras, and it, like, I mean... Well,
yeah, Shin Godzilla used it a lot, too. Like, during any crowd sequence, or any of the sequences where they're, like, looking at maps and stuff like that, with the rapid cutting, almost all of that exclusively shot on iPhones. And almost all the visual effects stuff, all the practical visual effects stuff, shot on iPhones.
Yeah, it's...
And personally, I think it's genius, because you gotta remember that this is Japan, and Japan has the biggest difference between their films and our films is that they don't have the money that we do. They don't have the money, and now they have more of the time, and you can tell. But even then, they're still rushing. Like the budget for Shin Godzilla was $15 million. That was it, compared to the $240 million Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And I think Shin Godzilla looks better than Godzilla King of the Monsters, just because there's such a specific style and they stick with it throughout the entire thing. And I think that goes a long way. And Shin Ultraman's no exception.
Yeah.
And to show... I think Shin Ultraman had a much smaller budget than Shin Godzilla, just because of how many elements they reused, and sets and costumes that they reused from Shin Godzilla. Mm-hmm. And it's actually really... It's props to Shinji Higuchi, but it's so fitting that they reuse so many props.
Yep.
And even there's stock footage. There's stock footage galore in this movie from Shin Godzilla. Whenever there's like military tanks firing or any of them firing missiles, that's all just stock footage they shot for Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
And they just literally copied and pasted it over in there. And like, I see one of the comments, Shin Gomez was hysterical.
I was waiting. Can I go off on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I hinted at the beginning how I liked how it was like they homaged the Ultra Q like transition into the Ultraman logo, but I use this phrase very lightly because I don't like to say this unironically, but I have to say it unironically here. Mm-hmm. I geeked the fuck out at the opening of this movie, where it was like, oh my god, we're doing all these Ultra Q Kaijus.
Oh yeah, me too. And I even love the fact that they just reused all the old Kaiju roars as well. Yep, I love the fact that Baragon's roar is in two different Kaijus in this thing, despite the fact that it makes no sense that they would have the same roars or anything like that. Yeah. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved how they... And Shinji Higuchi has gone as far as to say the reason why we used just the Shin Godzilla design for Gomez was because we didn't have time to make a new design. And we're like, of course, it's so fitting. And I'm like, that's genius. It's so genius.
Yeah, I was like in awe. I was like, oh my god, there's Gomez, Pangila. I'm like, I know all these guys.
Yeah, I know these guys. It's like, the gang's all here.
And they're all dead.
I love the opening. Like Shin Godzilla, I think the opening 10 to 15 minutes of Shin Ultraman is like, don't touch it. Like, it's great. It's great.
Like, yeah.
And stuff like that. Well, it's been another 20 minutes, Lucas. We're going to go to break again. and then when we come back, we'll get even more of the depth into Shin Ultraman. Hope you guys are enjoying. We'll be getting to the comments probably towards the end of our discussion, so do stay tuned for that. But
hold on to your socks.
We will be right back.
Sorry, one second. I'm having an audio issue.
Oh, here we go.
All right, there we go.
Sorry,
Oh.
I turned my mic off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Is I turned my damn mic off.
I got really
of
scared
course
because I was like, "What? Wait, what's going on my end? I don't know what to do."
No. It was 100% on my end.
Okay.
Give me a second. I just want to make sure I'm sounding fine. Give me a second.
All good.
There. That should have fixed the problem. Okay.
Yay.
I was wondering why my mic sounded kind of a little bit hotter than it did before, and I think I know why, and I think I fixed it. But anyways, so this question has irked me ever since I was introduced to Ultraman, Lucas.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to ask what your opinion is on this.
Sure.
Is Ultraman naked or not?
Huh. You know, Adam, that thought never really occurred to me until now.
Ever since I first saw Ultraman, I'm like, what is this?
I think they are built different, and I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, I can go with that one. I think they work differently than we do.
I think they work a bit differently than we do. I think that is the understatement. Because I think they're naked.
Oh.
Because it's kind of like the Invisible Man. Like, you realize that he's running around naked, right?
Yeah. Well, all right, hold on. Let me throw another thought into the ring with this, because
okay.
There is later on. I think it's called the Brothers' Mantle, where that's what the term is. They get like a cape for like the main Ultramen.
Right.
And that's called the Brothers' Mantle.
Yes.
So if we're going by your idea of the fact that they're naked as is, if they get the cape, does that mean that's their only article of clothing right now?
Yes, it would.
All right. Well, we learned a lot today.
And I open this up to the comments as well.
Yeah.
Is Ultraman naked?
I think we need to get down to the bottom of this.
I think we need to. These are the answers that need.
Yeah, we don't need to discuss the actual like implications of the movie. We need to know whether or not Ultraman is there, buck naked, right in front of us.
I think he is. I absolutely think he is, and I've thought that ever since I first watched Ultraman.
Again, he could be naked. Yeah, he could be naked, but again, their physique could be different compared to ours. I don't know.
They are aliens.
They are. It's exactly like.
Yeah.
We may never know.
Yeah. Well. Anyways, back to Shin Ultraman and how I enjoyed the fuck out of it.
Oh yeah.
I just admired the filmmaking, and there was another thing too that made me go, "This is a low budget film, trying to be a big budget movie," and that's not an insult. During the World Conference scene, towards the end of the movie, where they're trying to figure out a way to stop Zaton. Or is it Zaton? Is that
Zaton. Yeah.
Zeton.
Yeah.
I love how it's a virtual reality thing. And it's just him talking in bad English, which makes sense in this. In the context, the bad English makes sense, unlike in Shin Godzilla. So there's an improvement.
Yeah.
But he's just talking and looking around, and I love the fact that there are people, the other people in the SSSP, the triple SP, are just watching him in bewilderment behind him, and I'm like, there's a really funny visual gag with that. And I think it worked, because I'm like, so now they don't need to pay for all these Western extras. They don't need to do any of that. Oh, it's just over virtual reality.
Yeah.
And you know what? And the fact that it's kind of played for laughs, I think really helped the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a few of those type of moments throughout the thing that, as a filmmaker, I go, they're saving money. You know, and that's fine. I actually kind of enjoy that about these movies, is that you can, and again, you can see it with Shin Kamen Rider too, where I'm like, these guys don't need to worry about money anymore, at least in terms of Japan, right? Like they've earned the right to make these multi-million-dollar movies for Japanese films for Japanese audiences and stuff.
Yeah.
But yet they don't. they're just like, no, we've made nothing but low budget movies our entire lives. We're gonna keep making our movies look like they're low budget, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Well, I mean, I love like I don't know if this is like a contention point for people, but the way Ultraman is animated when he flies in Shin Ultraman, I adore it. I absolutely love how he just looks like a static 3D model that's just being rotated and then sent off into the distance, because I think it works.
It works because that was kind of copying.
Yeah.
What they did in the original series.
Yeah, totally.
Believe it or not, that pose, I don't think of that. You know, that typical Ultraman pose when he flies, where it's kind of awkward. But his back is kind of bent weird. I think of friggin' Jet Jaguar, like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you know what? I guess we should actually let's talk about the elephant in the room then.
Sure.
Was not a fan of this film's visual effects at all.
I can understand that. I can understand where you're coming from. I personally I was able to roll with it. Like, it didn't really bother me too much. I don't really like hark too much stuff on that, unless it's like appallingly bad. Like, it's usually, honestly, I had this problem more with American cinema, where it's just like the budget of the movie, and then you see the effects work, and it's just like, what are we doing here?
Well,
like,
that actually brings up a good point. I don't know if you've been following any of the CGI artists.
Oh yeah,
debacles
like
that have been going on. Yeah. And I got to tell you, the fact that the CGI in Shin Ultraman is better than the CGI that was in the first Black Panther movie, and especially the second Black Panther movie.
I haven't even seen the second one.
Yeah, it's appalling. And I think it's embarrassing that Shin Ultraman has better CGI and more realistic looking CGI with weight behind it.
Yeah, well, that's my same beef I have with video games too, where it's like, I kind of rant about this a lot on stream, where I'm just like, these games come out and they're like these big budget games, and some of them like look worse. And all right, I'm gonna dunk on something that I dunk on all the time really quick, but I'm just gonna briefly for like 3 seconds. Like, the new Pokemon game is abhorrently terrible. Like, it looks abhorrently awful, and they charged full price for it, and like people paid hook, line, and sinker for it. And like, this looks worse than like a game that came out on the PS2. Like, what are we doing here? But it's fun. It's okay. No, you still paid $60 for a game that is arguably worse quality than things that came out years ago. What are we doing? Like, it's ridiculous.
See, I don't really have any reference for that. The only thing that I really have any reference for in terms of a game, was the fact that I play Call of Duty World at War, which came out in like 2009.
Yeah.
And the gore in that game is unbelievably realistic.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you play Call of Duty World War II, which only came out like a few years ago.
Yeah, and it's just
it's like you're shooting them with a paintball gun.
Yeah, it's like splats and just like.
And I'm like, that's boring.
Yeah.
That's boring. That's the only thing I really have that to compare it to.
No, yeah,
now,
it's similar. Like,
that all being said, I understand why the CGI looks worse in Shin Ultraman than it does in Shin Godzilla, and not just because of the budget thing, but you've got to look at what the monsters are doing. In Shin Godzilla, they got away with Godzilla kind of being a little funky with its CGI.
Yeah.
A lot of that was the reason why it looked as good as it did was because Godzilla was just in one pose,
Yeah.
walking forward the entire movie, and yet they made that work.
Yeah, because that also works with a character like Godzilla. He's this impending force that you see this thing, and it's like it doesn't have to move too much. You see it, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and it doesn't. There's a couple of moments in Shin Godzilla where Godzilla looks utterly terrifying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The infamous after who we know plays, and he's lit up by the fire.
Yeah,
in
by
the
the fire behind him.
That's
Yeah,
one of the best shots in the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's one of the best shots in the movie. The one that freaks me out the most is like it's like a helicopter shot looking down at Godzilla, and he's coming out of the smoke after they bombarded him.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that with Jim Frasca in the theaters, and Jim actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, Godzilla's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. And I'm like, yeah.
I mean, to me, also, like with Shin Godzilla 2, it's like the final shot of that movie is still haunting to me.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love it. I don't even care that we're not getting a sequel.
Yeah, me too.
I love it.
I don't need it. I don't need to. I don't need to see what it is. Just the thought of what it could be is so much scarier to me. Like. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from with the effects work for Shin Ultraman. But
yeah. I'm sorry. Let me finish that one point.
Go ahead.
In Ultraman, there's big ridiculous kaiju battles going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to sound so terrible, but this kind of is like this weird, awkward middle ground between Pacific Rim and an Asylum movie. That's what I got out of it.
I understand what you're saying with it. I just don't think I agree with that personally.
Yeah. Oh, well, 100%. I just remember there's one shot where the monster that has the electricity that eats the electricity.
Naronaga, I think is that one.
Yeah, something like that. There's one scene where he roars towards the camera, and I'm like, that looks awful. Like I was taken out of the moment. And what frustrated me the most about all of that is that there were several parts of this film where it was almost completely CGI. Mm-hmm. And I mean that. There was a lot more CGI in Shin Ultraman than there was in Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, inarguably.
The thing that made me that kind of drove me nuts was like I know I nerded out when the paint swirled and it went from Shin Godzilla to Shin Ultraman, right?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have done that practically instead of it be really, really like it's the simplest effect to do. Just point your iPhone down at a can of paint, film it, and then reverse it in post, like what they did with the original film. Instead, it's CGI. And a part of me goes, look, you know that the CGI is going to be kind of wonky. And they know it is, because all of them know that their CGI, just because of the time and the money put into it, is not going to look as good as a Hollywood movie. And they don't even pretend to deny that, which props on them. All right, well then, Shinji Higuchi, if you really wanted to, because they even recreated the folds in the Ultraman suit in CGI.
Yeah.
And what drove me kind of nuts about that was I go, why didn't you just use men in suits at that point? That was my big problem. And like they even created like one of the ones that I actually found kind of interesting is that I believe it was the electrical monster too. They even created the seam going down the back.
Yeah.
You know, like where the zipper is, because you see that in a lot of old old Ultraman stuff. As you see the zippers frequently. The only thing that they didn't recreate, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't, was they didn't recreate the eye holes, the clear eye holes that you see in that. But a part of me goes like, if they, like, you know, when Zayton is flying over Christ-like over the Earth and stuff like that, like that model was CGI.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was.
I couldn't help but look at that and go, that looks like it's from a PlayStation 2. Or no, a PlayStation 3. PlayStation 2
Yeah.
is an insult to that. Like a PlayStation 3. And I'm going, you know how much better that would have looked if they just shot a model?
Yeah. Well, also with Zeton, it's that's a interesting thing because that's actually one of the characters in this that's like pretty different compared to
Yes.
because Zeton
Well,
was
actually,
like the
I'd argue that the Ultramen, whatever that species is, I can't remember
Okay.
the name of it,
Okay.
they're radically different
Okay.
than what I remember from the original OG
Well, the thing is
Ultraman.
with Zeton is I double checked this for myself too. That monster specifically is like the final kaiju that shows up in the original Ultraman show.
Yeah,
And
he was like the big baddie.
yeah, he was like there was the alien Zeton race, and then there was Zeton, who was like their big kaiju, and that one was actually still just like kind of a kaiju he would fight on Earth. And they changed it in Shin Ultraman where he's now just like this giant, almost deity like level threat. And I kind of liked that. I thought that was actually a pretty cool way to change up that kaiju a little bit.
It was very Evangelion.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
And well, actually, you know what? That entire ending, I don't know how I missed it, but the first time I watched Shin Ultraman, I didn't notice the countdown clock at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's so Evangelion. that is literally that awesome fight where Asuka and Shinji have to sync
Yeah.
their attack. And I remember that one in particular there was a countdown clock at the bottom of the screen the entire time. And that's what the ending of Shin Ultraman does. And I love how they even get rid of the sound effects.
Yeah.
It's just Shiro Sagisu's awesome music score.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I didn't even care that it wasn't necessarily this big, huge fight with another kaiju. I actually liked that it wasn't.
No, me too. That's what I'm saying. Is I liked the change they did with Zeton as like he's this god level threat that like they really need to figure out how we can't use the Ultra Beam, we can't use the Ultra Boomerang. I forget the name of that move. We have to figure out an actual way to take care of this, and their solution was to make a black hole. I bumped my camera.
Yeah. My only issue with the ending is that I almost would have liked it more, and hear me out, because of the theme of the film and what the film is going for is that humanity ain't all that bad. I wish Ultraman wasn't even in the finale.
Okay.
I sincerely wish that, and I think it would have fit the theme of the movie better, and I think we had enough Ultraman at this point where I would have had that alien lose his ability to transform into Ultraman for a while, but for some reason, have him do that attack, right? That first attack where he fails miserably.
Yeah.
Have him do that, and have it where he can't transform anymore. And I would have had it truly be humanity that defeats Zeton.
Yeah.
And where it was our ingenuity and our brains coming together to stop this big ass threat.
I still think that's kind of what happens, but I know what you're saying.
Yes,
I know what you're saying.
But I think it's diminished by the fact that Ultraman has to be the one to ultimately deliver the package.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think it would have been really cool if we just did it ourselves. And I think that would have fit the theme a little bit more. And that is a common complaint that I read in a lot of the reviews. That was one of the few where I go, yeah, I agreed with that.
Can I also really briefly talk about the theme of Shin Ultraman really quick? Because
Sure.
this is really an obvious, like not really the deepest kind of thought, but it's something I really like about the movie. But I like its theme a lot, especially because like, you know, we've been doing it too, comparing it to Shin Godzilla, because Shin Godzilla is this movie that's like has such these feelings of like hopelessness and despair and that like that. While Shin Ultraman is the polar opposite of that. It is like, we are going to save Earth. Earth is worth saving. I'm going to save these people. Like, and I like that difference between the two of them.
Well, I'll What two movies were you? I'm so sorry, Lucas. I just totally zoned out. I'm so sorry, man. I just totally zoned out.
No, no. I was just talking about the themes of Shin Godzilla versus Shin Ultraman, where Shin Godzilla is more of this kind of like hopeless, like bleak feeling. Well, Shin Ultraman is like the opposite of that. It's I'm going to save Earth. I'm going to. Really, you think so? You think differently?
I do. Okay. Not Shin Ultraman. I completely agree with you about the themes of Shin Ultraman. I think Shin Godzilla's theme is actually very positive. And that, yes, it is bleak, to be clear. It is bleak, but it's about individuals coming together and solving the problem. And that, I think that's the theme, is that when we really get our heads together, we can solve almost any problem. And I'm like, that would have been interesting to see that carried over into Shin Ultraman a little bit more.
Okay.
But I think the themes in Shin Ultraman are very archetype for the kaiju genre in general, because that's something that's very interesting. It's something very different than Western science fiction. If you look at a lot of the Japanese kaiju films, particularly from the 60s and early part of the 70s, very positive outlooks on people. Very positive outlook on humanity, too. Like, the only other genre or whatever that I can think of other than maybe Ultraman and some of the Godzilla movies, especially, from that era, is the only thing that is Star Trek. Like, everything else was, like, very dark and dingy, and humanity is evil. But yet, if you look at, especially Godzilla from that era, it was like, no. We're decent people. Average people getting in extraordinary situations and doing the right thing. That's such a big part of, especially Shinichi Sekizawa, who wrote a lot of Ultraman, by the way. A lot of his themes were average, normal people getting thrown in extraordinary situations and doing the right thing, not because they have to, but because it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and I think that's a bit of Shin Ultraman. I or at least I see the inklings of it, where these are just they're trying to do the right thing, and I think that's far more impactful in Shin Godzilla than it is in Shin Ultraman.
Yeah, and I think I can agree with you on that.
Yeah, but I did like the sort of hopefulness.
Yeah, because that was like my big takeaway when I left it, where it was just like I left the movie like. And like the term "feel good" is always like kind of like thrown around a lot, but like if like I left the movie feeling like hopeful that it's like, you know, like incorporating into like my own thoughts in life, where it's just like I'm down and it's like, look, no, you can do this, you can get past this, and it'll be okay.
It'll be
hopefully.
okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. Like,
it's really funny. I have that with Star Trek, like it's in tomorrow.
Yeah, I can imagine. I totally can.
Yeah. But yeah, that was. It's just the ending. If Ultraman wasn't even in the ending, and I mean the ending of the movie, I would have been a little happier. But can we talk about the Ultraman? Well, I gotta tell you, I'm still a little confused as to why the aliens hate us so much.
I think it was just because they consider themselves on a higher level. And just kind of like judge humanity in general, like because they probably, you know, like witness, you know, like the wars that our race do and that kind of stuff like that. It's also Zoffy is another one that was like he has like it's like kind of a different design, because like Zoffy originally was just kind of like another Ultraman, same color scheme, but had like I think like a few like dots around his collar.
That's
and this is like gold.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was from that. All right. Okay. So I wasn't sure if that was referencing something or not. I figured it was.
No. Yeah. Zoffy was another character who did show up at the end of the original Ultraman too.
Yeah. Okay. Because if I remember correctly, I didn't think they hated humanity at all. That species.
Yeah. I don't think it was hate. I think it was more so they just knew. If
what we could do, the risk of what we could do, which is very common in Star Trek as well.
Yeah, I think it was more so that rather than like.
But I don't remember. Oh, whoops! I don't remember at all in Ultraman or any Ultraman from the first three where they actively said, "No, we want them to die."
I think that's a fair point, because I can't give you a really true answer to that either.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that is a new take, and I'm okay with it. I like it. Because I remember... We're in big spoiler alerts here anyways. I remember when it's revealed that... Because if I remember correctly, Ultraman and the OG Ultraman isn't an alien per se. He's still him. The guy who transforms into Ultraman or has the little stick that he holds up, which I still don't understand, but whatever. He's still him.
Yeah.
You know, and at least in Ultraman Jack and Ultra 7, it's definitely that guy.
Yeah, they more so have like kind of like a connection to.
It's a symbiotic kind of thing.
Yep. Yes.
In this, he's dead.
That was a sick. I actually thought that reveal was sick.
That reveal caught me.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And I love how they don't explain it right off either. It's just it suddenly cuts. It's a hard cut, which I think Shinji Higuchi and Hideaki Anno are amazing at. Are the hard cuts that they do. It's almost like the page turn with Junji Ito. Yeah, where it's but they do, to me in cinema, the page turn is the hard cut, the jump cut.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you just see his lifeless body on the ground.
Yeah, it's like his skin is like
it's really pale, and he's been dead for clearly a long time, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I thought that was a great reveal too.
And it makes sense as it goes along, as they slowly start revealing everything. And you know, that goes into my problem with the characterization of the characters themselves. Had they established him as a human character more beforehand, becoming buddy with people and stuff like that, it would have made me understand that something weird has happened with him. And not just him being Ultraman. Because the way how they sell you in the movie is that he's always known that he's Ultraman until the twist is shown to us that he's not really him. So we only get that one scene with him where he immediately goes, I'm going to go save that kid.
Yeah.
Right? They see that kid, I'm going to go save that kid. Which doesn't make much sense to me. Why don't you have an entire room full of military dudes. Why don't you just send a squadron out there and take care of that? But whatever. It's a trope. Why do you constantly have to send Kirk, Spock, and McCoy to an alien planet? You have plenty of red shirts where they can do that. But, it's... but you think, at least that's how they sell it. And I gotta say props to Hideaki Anno, because he's the one that wrote it, for subverting our expectations.
The phrase.
Yeah, I know. But... And props to him, because again that twist genuinely got me.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, all right, and because I do really appreciate the fact that it makes you think that that's just him from the get-go. But had we known him a bit earlier, I think it would have been a little bit more impactful.
Yeah. I get that.
And stuff like that, and especially if you introduced, and now I'm kind of rewriting the movie, and this is the last thing I'll say about it. If you introduced a new girl that likes to slap her ass, if you introduced her earlier and she really show her getting buddy with this dude, I think it would have had far more of an impact, especially the ending.
Mm-hmm.
It would have had far more impact going into it. I love how it sounds like I hate the movie. I don't. I fucking loved it. But
it happens. You're hard because you love.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just really, I really enjoyed that twist. I enjoyed some of the. I think the dialogue gets a little too ham-fisted at moments, particularly at the ending, where he's like in the metaverse.
Yeah, the metaverse, and he's talking to Zoffy.
Yeah. That's what it's Zoffy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say about that, because if you don't mind, we could go on to the villains.
Oh, well, I'll mention really quick, because you do bring up a good point about having us not know that he's actually Ultraman now, because you actually bring up a good point, because you were mentioning about, like, wanting to have more time with the characters and get to know them a little more. That would also really help with the overall theme of Ultraman in this movie, too, of just, like, how he does care about Earth, and he knows Earth are good. Like, there's good people on Earth, and it's worth saving and being part. Wow, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's why.
Yeah.
Ultraman does what he does, and why he stays.
Yeah.
Is because he sees the main character risking his life to save this one kid.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that they could easily keep attacking the electricity monster, they could just continue attacking him. Fuck the kid. You know, the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. Blah 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 blah.
No, they want to save the kid.
This guy says no. We got to get the kid out of there.
Yeah.
And he sees that and goes, "There's something about this species that we're missing."
Yeah, and then what I was saying there was that like that could lead into more of him. He gets to know his team, and he sees what humanity is trying to do in these moments, and sees like the real nitty gritty behind it, and is like that helps kind of hit that home a little more too.
Well, they do really foreshadow even before the twist happens that he's an alien, because look at the amount of books he's suddenly reading.
Yeah.
Which I found very fascinating, and he's reading them very quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't know the character enough for me to go, maybe he's just a weirdo like everybody else on the team. Which is another common theme with these Shin movies, is that our main characters are all a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
Who think outside the box. Which oh my god, I love how in the opening, I love the girl, not the girl that slaps everybody's ass, but the other girl. Yeah. I love how she walks in there, right, with all these military guys around. And her first line is, "Hello again." And I think that's so funny. That is so funny.
With her too, she has like one of like the weirdest shots in the movie, which is very like, it might be kind of trying to impersonate Anno a little bit, where the shot is inside a bag of chips, and she opens the bag, and you see her reaching into the bag of chips. Yes. That's a great shot.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. I was thinking Death Note.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I like her I like her because she doesn't really have a character. She's just got a personality, which I think both Shin Godzilla and this succeed in droves, giving these characters personality, which almost makes up for the fact that they have no character. I love how she when the first villain shows up, who I forgot his name.
Are you talking like not the like Kaiju,
the one that begins with a Z?
Zarab is what you're thinking of. Which, by the way, fresh ass fucking hat he's wearing.
I know, right? I was giggling every time I saw him with the suit. He was wearing like a noir suit with the hat, and I'm like, that's comical. But it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I love how when he first shows up, she is so pissed that she's lost everything that she actually says fuck. And then they censor it out.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I totally forgot.
That is so funny to me.
Yeah,
I don't know why that was really funny, but it's also the fact that they actually censor it out.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Well, yeah, sometimes just censoring something makes it funnier.
Makes it funnier, yeah.
And I know this is so tongue-in-cheek for that movie, but for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, there's a scene where Scott goes to the coffee shop, and the one lady, the one girl, she's like cursing him out because he's dating Ramona when she told him not to, and it's censored every time she says something like one latte for like fuck Pilgrim, and it's fucking censored. Like, I know that's for that movie and it makes sense, but like it's the same thing that makes you think of it.
Well, it's the same kind of energy, I'd argue.
Yeah.
But it was really funny. I really did laugh at that. You know why they could have done that too? Because I don't think Shin Godzilla would have very much gotten away from that, but I think Shin Ultraman was also made for a younger audience than Shin Godzilla.
I get it.
And it makes sense considering the source material. Look at Ultraman was made for kids. That's what it was.
Yeah, totally.
I just like seeing men in rubber lizard suits beat each other up. All right. Look, I'm not saying it's a fetish. I'm saying that it's a
lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. It was 100% my choice. Some people like being furries. I like rubber lizard suits.
Good for you. I'm proud of you, Adam.
Or in the case of Ultraman Taro, a moose lizard thing that likes to get into a dance off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it was very. I like that, and that that entire opening scene is great because I just love I love the fact that everyone in there knows each other, they've worked with each other. Like the moment Triple SP walks in there to like, we're taking over command, and then the commander in the room just goes, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's really funny. And then when they name the electric monster, all of a sudden it goes dead silent in the room, and this one guy just turns around in his chair. It's like, is there a reason for that? And the guy's like, no, we just name him on a whim. That had me dying.
Yeah, that's great.
Because
great.
That is exactly what happens in almost every one of those kaiju movies and episodes. The most egregious one that I can think of is from Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Mm-hmm.
You understand why they call him Frankenstein, because they know he was made by Frankenstein, so they just start calling him Frankenstein. Baragon, in the Japanese version, out of nowhere, suddenly our main characters are shouting, "Everybody run from Baragon."
Yeah.
No reason why.
Well,
He should be called Baragon.
Baragon's a star.
Baragon is a star, considering the fact that his suit was used in almost every single Ultra Q and Ultraman kaiju ever.
Oh yeah.
But also, like Sanda and Gaira, there's no explanation why they're called that in the Japanese version of War of the Gargantuas. That's why in the English versions of both movies, it's one of the few things that it's better than the Japanese version. They call them Brown Gargantua and Green Gargantua, because that makes sense. That makes more sense. They just say it's Baragon's a monster in the American version of that film. They don't just start shouting, "Run from Baragon." A part of me really just wanted to shout, wanted a civilian to shout, "What the fuck is that? What's a Baragon?" and then that just made me laugh in Shin Ultraman, where some guy actually goes, "The fuck does that mean? Where'd you get that name from?" They're like, "Oh, we just name him on a whim." Like, that's funny.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
I love the entire opening of this movie. Even when I just love how nonchalant they react to Ultraman showing up too. Because suddenly they get word that, oh, there's something coming from space at like 1,000,000 miles per hour that's about to hit the Earth. What? Then it hits the Earth, and they're like, "Oh, is it another kaiju?" And they're immediately, "Is it another kaiju?" "No, it's humanoid. It's a silver giant." And they're all just like, "Huh." Instead of, "What the fuck?" They're all just like, "Huh."
I see. Yeah, it seems like a normal Wednesday.
I love how this universe has established that there's been so many kaiju.
Yeah.
That they just expect this shit now. And so when suddenly Ultraman shows up, they're just like, "It's another Tuesday. We just got to watch." I'm not sure what this is.
It's literally like two guys standing there. They're like, one's reading the paper. It's like, "Ah, shit, Carl, look."
Well, you see that too. Like when you hear like all the civilians afterwards, like talking, "Did you see that new kaiju?" Like, what about the one last week? And I'm like, this is
that was actually
that's
something
funny.
Similar that Singular Point did, whereas like the kaijus got their names by people just online coming up with names for them, which is always cute.
Yeah, I've always liked that, and I love universes that can do that, and because Pac Rim did it really well. In fact, I think Pac Rim did it to the point that they perfected it.
Wait, are you saying Pacific Rim?
Pacific Rim.
Oh, okay, so I've never heard anyone refer to it as Pac Rim. So
I've heard it called that all the time.
No, but it makes sense. No, I get it.
Pac-Man does it really well, actually.
Yeah, Pac-Man's my favorite kaiju.
It turns into a kaiju when he starts eating all the ghosts.
Oh, did you see Pixels?
Holy shit. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Pixels.
Might as well be a kaiju in that movie.
Yeah, I totally forgot Pixels was a fucking thing.
That's for the best.
But I really enjoyed that about Shin Ultraman, is how and then there's a great line too that I didn't notice on my first viewing, and a lot of it has to do with just how fast the subtitles get thrown at you, that I was missing chunks of information, which goes with the territory of these kind of movies. But they have a line where they start talking with that alien, the one with the top hat, Zerab. They start talking to him, and there's a really funny line with the government official, with the head of the triple SP, the triple SP. He goes, "So we get kaiju every other day, and the Americans don't bat an eye. But the moment an extraterrestrial shows up, suddenly they're all over it."
I forgot about that. That line. That's a great fucking line.
And you know, why I love that is it's not just funny. Like, it works within universe
Yeah, yeah,
that they established. That
totally.
And I'm like, that's really funny. Like,
yeah,
and
totally.
the fact that it works on such a double level, it's not just a joke. It genuinely works as a line within universe that I think makes everything work so well within this.
Yeah, it helps you buy the world more.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
helps you
and I
with the world
love that. I love the
Oh, yeah.
world building that we see in this because there's a lot of little details throughout this entire thing of what this universe is, and the fact that like the entire prologue just sort of sets for you that for some reason there's kaijus everywhere.
Yeah, we can't.
And then one of them, the bird,
Yeah,
they don't know what happened to that thing. They just let it fly off into the distance and said, "Good enough. It's not destroying anything. Just leave
let
it."
it be. Let it be.
I love that. And I'm like, this is beautiful.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Makes me very excited for Shin Kamen Rider.
I'm still. I need to really like do my homework though for that one, like just a little bit.
I actually don't want to do my homework for that one. I want to go in completely
That's
blind.
fair. That's fair.
I want to go in
actually. I'll
completely
give you that.
blind and see if I enjoy it, which I
Okay,
think I
that's fair.
will because
Yeah.
it's Hideaki Anno. And then I'll get into Kamen Rider after that,
Yeah.
and to see if I enjoy it more. But
Doubling back briefly because of the villains of the movie, like not the more like sentient villains in the movie, like Zrob, I thought was really cool. I am unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with the original arcs of Zrob and Mephiles. I forget how
Yeah,
you pronounce
yeah.
it. But,
but
I liked both of them. I liked them a lot actually.
I do too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Zarab considerably more than I enjoyed Mephiles.
I actually liked Mephiles a little. I'm just gonna call him Mephiles.
Mephiles? However you
Mephiles.
pronounce it.
The thing is, Mephiles is like usually spelled with like a ph, but the point is, I liked his little solely because in Adam, I think you can probably understand this coming from me. The fight with him is just kind of stuff I like. It's just kind
that
of
was
things
great.
I like. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that was
oh my
great.
god, the fucking track that plays during that fight too. The fucking guitar was
Yeah,
fucking sick.
I was like, oh, we're going full Evangelion now. Shiro Sugisu.
Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
About something about the overall movie, because this is something I was kind of thinking about because I watched a clip of that fight with something edited to it, and I'm curious what you feel about this. And I'll explain my reasoning about it too. Is were you a fan of, like, from what you've watched of original Ultraman, like the grunts and noises Ultraman would make? Like
I was gonna ask about that. I wanted
Okay.
one Shuwatch. I wanted one.
I can understand that, and I personally, like, when I watched I watched that fight clip and someone edited those over it, and I was like, oh, I kind of missed that a little bit. But
I did too.
The thing is, I think for the tone they were going for, it made sense not to do it.
That's why I wanted one Shuwatch, and I would have had it
yeah.
the moment he rams the black hole.
Yeah,
The second time where they do the slow zoom in where it's kind of janky and awkward, which I love the fact that they recreated that. They even made it where it didn't have motion blur.
Yeah.
It was just hard zoom ins, and I'm like, yes.
But I do wish they kind of.
But I would have had him during the second time where he does that when he's about to ram the black hole into Zayton. I would have had him go Shwatch. I would have heard it.
I just want to call myself out really quick. I went to drink my water and I thought the cap was on it, so I reached over and then I realized the cap wasn't on it. So I awkwardly, like on frame, was like, water, cap. Oh no cap. Okay, cool.
Well, just because of that, I'm gonna make sure your lower third pops up so everybody knows who you are.
That's me. I'm on that. Everyone knows. Hey, look at this
Everybody
guy.
knows.
He didn't drink his water properly.
Unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe, unfollow, block.
Yeah, exactly. That is clearly the only thing to do for somebody who
fumbled the water bottle.
Yeah, it's the only way that can happen in reality.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, something. Yeah, I would have had him do one shoe watch. The thing that I was actually surprised that they didn't incorporate into Ultraman is the beacon.
Oh, I actually liked
on
how
his
they did that
chest.
though. I like that they made it like
I missed. I like the flashing.
yeah, I can understand that.
And I like that little. I like that alarm.
I like that his skin, like the color on him, like kind of slowly like fades out as he's like running out of power.
It turns to green.
He goes
it turns to green as he's
red
running out
and
of
green.
power.
And I think he went black too at one point when it was like really low too.
Oh, I thought he stayed green. I might have missed it.
But like
but...
I liked, I don't know, I like that visual indicator a little more.
Mm.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Oh
it's
no,
classic.
I like
it's
it.
Classic.
It was different.
Yeah.
You know, without being so radically different.
Yeah, subtle little thing.
That it didn't feel like Ultraman. So I was okay with it. I was okay with it, but I like the alarm.
Yeah.
And because a part of me was almost expecting a random narrator to show up.
Because that always happened. That always happened in the show. It's like
because that always happened in the show. Ultraman's gonna run out of power.
Keep fighting on, Ultraman. Like, but also I think like in the original show, and I don't know if they said this in Shin Ultraman, but Ultraman was like solar powered in the original show. I think a little bit.
Yes, he was.
And I don't think that's at all an element in this, which is
very modeled after Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very modeled after Superman. And yeah, he was run off of the solar power. He used the sun to recharge himself. And I think that was a staple. I think that's a staple to this day. I think please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a staple to this day. This was the first time.
Superman?
No. Okay. Well, the fact that Ultraman needs to use the sun.
Oh, solar. Okay.
Needs the sun to charge. Because I know it comes up a lot in Ultraman Jack, because some of the monsters figure out that Ultraman likes day.
Yeah.
Likes day.
I think that stays a constant.
So they start. That's why there's a lot of sunset episodes, because the monsters figure out he likes daytime. We're going to try to keep him here when it gets dark. And I'm like, that's clever.
Yeah.
But I think this is the first time the sun wasn't really brought up.
Yeah, I don't think that was really even part of it for this incarnation.
No, I don't think it was. I don't remember it being brought up, and I don't remember it being a big thing. He just needed to, like, rest. You know, to recharge. Like, he needed a couple of he needed a couple of batteries put into him, you know?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And again, it never felt too radical where this wasn't Ultraman. Like, it feels like Ultraman. And a lot of that, I think, also comes down to the music. Shiro Sagisu doesn't really have a score in this film. It's nothing but recomposed music written for the original show. Done with a modern orchestra, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. That is awesome. Cool. I just don't really care for Ultraman music. I just never. I don't mind the Ultraman theme, and I don't mind the battle music. But to me, Ultraman Jack had the best soundtrack. The opening theme.
I haven't listened.
Just listen to type it up. Listen to the Ultraman Jack opening credit music, and it's bad. Okay. It's so much fun. And then the battle music. Definitely. The battle music is very entertaining too. But it was cool, and I was shocked at how well these old themes fit with a modern movie. Just with a modern composition. You know? And it fit very well. Yeah. It fit very well, which I'll say this. I think this is one of the weaker Shiro Sagisu scores, only because of how much of it is reused from the original Ultraman soundtrack.
Yeah,
he didn't really get to explode as much as he did with like Shin Godzilla, or especially like his Evangelion stuff. You know, he didn't get to kind of unload. The only track where he really, I think, goes balls to the wall is the final track, where he's flying towards Zaton, going to blow it up. That track is awesome.
I agree with you on that.
And I think the editors made the right decision by completely cutting out all of those sound effects and just letting his music tell the story. But yeah, it was very good. But I don't really. I know the guy who did the music, and this explains a lot. The guy who did the music to Ultraman 66 did the music to Godzilla's Revenge.
That makes way too much sense now that I'm really thinking about
And
it.
I want to say, give me a second. I'll confirm this in just a second.
All right. That actually, like, I totally kind of hear it a little bit too now that you say it.
I
Like,
want to say. Let's see if he did it. Yeah, he did this. He did the score for Ultraman, Ultra Q, Spectraman. He did as well. Let's see. The composer 13. He did do the music to the Human Vapor. Okay.
oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did one other movie where his score was not like his typical score. It was the Human Vapor, and I want to say that's why he got the job for Ultra Q, is because Ultra Q is a considerably creepier show than I'd say the Ultraman ones. Oh, do you remember that spider episode?
I don't think I got up.
Oh, it's like a haunted house, and
that sounds rough.
It is creepy as fuck.
I have to catch that one.
Yeah, it's a good episode. It's a really good episode. But yeah. Going back to the villains. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I really wish the one that begins with a Z with a top hat. Zarab was the main villain throughout the entire thing. Just make him the villain.
Okay.
I think he would have worked better than having two villains.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was kind of like, Zarab turns out to be kind of like the pawn, like the testing the waters, and then Memphis, Missouri turns out to be turns out to be the actual villain of it. And I'm like, I think I would have loved to have seen Zarab on a swing set talking to the alien in a top hat. I think I would have rather have seen that than an alien, than the other alien. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being silly, but
I'm just gonna keep calling Mephiles. I love Mephiles' like I said it at the beginning of the stream. The gag, like, it wasn't even a gag, just the way he talks is like one of my favorite sayings. So then millisecond, because they set that in stone, the millisecond you hear him say, one of my least favorite sayings. Oh shit!
I do like that.
I loved. For like 2 weeks after the movie came out, my friends and I were nonstop. When we would say something, would follow it up one of my favorite.
I love
sayings.
that. I love that so much. I love that so much, Lucas. Because I think that all could have been worked into Zarab as well. I just think it would have been easier on the audience, and I think it would have made the movie flow a little bit better if it was just the one villain.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a couple. Because to me, and I think this is part of its weakest flaw structurally with Shin Ultraman, is that it feels very episodic, which I get because it's paying homage to the show.
And I will add that I actually kind of liked that about it.
I wanted a movie. I would rather have it be one consistent narrative than it being like, oh, now we're going here. Oh, now the butt lady is suddenly gigantic.
Which, something about that scene, by the way, I did want to mention. I wasn't sure how I could mention this. There is, if you notice, like, when that happens, they sort of like a bunch of social media posts.
Yes.
And there is some shots of people who deliberately tried to get upskirt shots of her, and I think that's the funniest shit because that's totally what fucking weirdos would do.
That was actually a big complaint on Toho Kingdom, is that they thought that was so needless and unnecessary, which I actually kind of agree. That entire thing, not the upskirt thing, just that entire bit, I thought was kind of unnecessary. But the upskirt stuff I liked only.
Not that I liked it in the sense of like,
this is what would happen
in its setting. This is 100% what happened. Also, I think apparently during that sequence too, someone's profile picture was like Asuka or Rei or something. Just a small.
I was looking. I didn't notice. I didn't think there was somewhere. I was looking on this viewing. I was.
But I also feel like that scene. I actually could understand its place because it's again, it was Mephiles like showing like, hey, I have these that can keep you guys safe, and he wanted to like fully show it to the world. Like I could understand that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I personally
for an alien invasion plot, well, not really an alien invasion plot, but an alien plot. This one was surprisingly original in that they weren't going to do it. They were going to let us do it ourselves.
Yeah, they were going to just say,
yeah.
"Hey, we'll give you this so long as you're obedient and you
Yeah.
do not disobey us."
Just
like,
don't disobey us. I did appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't just typical. We're going to nuke you, or we're going to invade you.
And there's
Until
also
Zayton
the
shows up.
reoccurring, the plot of during the Zarab arc was that the identity of Ultraman gets revealed. So then now he is on the run basically from here on out of that movie. So when the swing set scene happens, the fucking awesome conclusion is that you see he's like surrounded by people.
Yeah.
like there's like I thought that was
really good. I really like that.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, you want to know the biggest reason why I could tell Hideaki Anno didn't direct this movie? There are no trains in this movie.
I knew you were gonna say it.
There are none. There were zero trains. Therefore, this movie gets a 0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Shin Kamen Rider, first frame in the first trailer.
Of the trailer
is a train track. Check and mate.
I don't think there is a Hideaki Anno movie where there isn't a train. Or, actually, more so than a train tracks. But I honestly think that's also a theme that Hideaki Anno likes, and he uses that as a visual metaphor.
Yeah.
That we're going on a journey. That either we're going on a journey, and that this character is on a journey, and these tracks are what this is the tracks that he's on, and I think there's very much so something about that Hideaki Anno genuinely likes as a visual metaphor. But I said, yeah, he didn't direct this because, or else that scene where him and Memphis, Missouri are talking to each other. I think that scene would have probably been on by the train tracks instead of on the slings. I also kind of like how Memphis kind of has like this childlike attitude during that whole scene where he's because you have Ultraman just kind of sitting there, very solemn like he is, and then you have him. You have Memphis, who is swinging. He's got a smile on his face.
He's having fun.
Which a part of me makes him a slightly more compelling character.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense in some ways, because it's like, if you hate humanity, why are you enjoying being human so much?
Well, I would take it more as like he's finding humor in it.
Okay.
Humor, what?
Okay, because I think that would have fit just as well with Zarab, because I think Zarab was having fun. Clearly, because he was wearing a fucking top hat and
he also, he's just trying, instead of like trying, he's the one trying to make the countries fight one another.
Yes, which I loved. I loved. I don't know. I just found him to be a more compelling character on the whole. And if you combine the two, I think it would have been a good middle ground.
I personally liked Memphis a little more, but I loved Zarab too. I thought both of them were great personally.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all right.
And then also like with Zarab too, he like when the one guy realizes what it's like, oh shit, you're doing this, he immediately kidnaps him and then starts using Ultraman as like a scapegoat. Like, yeah, that's right, he's the one doing this. He's the one destroying everything.
Yeah, I loved that. And the fight scene too is really funny because it is literally a shot-for-shot remake of the one that's in the original Ultraman show.
I definitely have to check it out. I have to.
Yeah, there's somebody even uploaded a comparison, and is literally shot for shot.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, shot for shot. Very, very interesting. But no, I admired this movie for being for getting darker than I thought it was going to get.
Yeah.
Again, the whole that big twist where you find out that Ultraman isn't him. The real character is dead.
Yeah.
And he just kind of copied his likeness. That was interesting. I actually was expecting, in all honesty, I was expecting at the end of this movie he was going to get resurrected. The real him was going to end up being resurrected, and that Ultraman was going to be somehow dead in some way, and that his power went into... It's therefore establishing it more like a traditional Ultraman, where it's really him, but he has the power to summon Ultraman. It was
Yeah.
going to evolve into something more like that.
Because that is kind of how the movie ends?
No, I think it ends where that is clearly the alien still.
Really?
Down on
Because
the
I thought
planet.
it was okay.
And the
'Cause I thought
reason
it was established.
and the reason why I think it's still the alien is because when he wakes up, the real version of him, the human,
Yeah.
never knew that girl.
Okay.
He died before he met the girl that slaps her own ass.
Okay. Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
And when he wakes up and smiles, which I think was nice, and when he sees her, I think that's what it says, that it's still the alien.
Okay.
But he's still human in a way. You know,
Okay,
he's
all right.
embraced that part of his humanity, which I think is thinking a little bit too much of it into it, but
Okay.
I think that's what it is. At least that's how I interpreted that ending. It's definitely not Shin Godzilla in terms of how
Yeah.
interpretive it can be. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the ending. I know a
Me
lot
too.
of people didn't.
I this is just taking me for a loop because I really feel like I thought only like saw really positive stuff about it.
It's literally been nothing but negative stuff for me. It
Oh, damn.
literally just about everyone has said like, this is so stupid. It was just trying to be like Shin Godzilla with material that shouldn't have been like Shin Godzilla. I'm like, I didn't. Visually, it
Ooh.
kind of looks like that, but I was like, story wise, I was like, no, it really
Ooh.
wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Obviously,
I think this movie would have been better if Hideaki Anno directed it.
I mean, I'm also biased. I like Hideki Anno.
Just because I think he has the actor's touch a bit more, the subtleness a bit more than Shinji Higuchi does. Shinji Higuchi goes crazy with visuals, and is like, I have to be big. And Hideaki Anno can rein that in.
Yeah,
I think a lot better. Even though he likes to go big too, and don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just good movie.
Me too. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, unless you have anything else you want to talk about, I've gone through all my notes.
I think I've kind of hit all the beats I wanted to mention too
Yeah.
about it. But just really, yeah. I just overall like it's kind of a weird thing for me because it's one of those things where I went in knowing I'm gonna like this movie. They have to really royally like screw something up for me to not like it, and I knew that wouldn't happen. So it's hard for me to be like super hard on it at times, even though like yeah, of course there's faults. You know, not every movie's perfect, but I really think it was a strong movie. I really enjoyed it. Like I don't know what else to say besides that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I went into this movie. I said at the beginning I was nervous, but I never was like, I'm going to not like this movie.
Yeah.
I was nervous, and the main reason why I was nervous is just because Shinji Higuchi was directing it, not Hideaki Anno.
Yeah.
And you know what? I shouldn't have been. It was fine.
Yeah.
And I vastly enjoyed the movie. I can't say it was a great movie, but I can say it was a damn good one.
Okay.
You know, I really enjoyed it. I was glad I watched it. I was laughing, which is more than even most comedies can make me do.
Yeah.
I was enjoying the spectacle of the whole thing because it was pretty low key, and so when it got big, it let you kind of really take that in.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing was absolutely relentless, but I wasn't expecting anything else from something Hideaki Anno wrote.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because you look at Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and how many episodes nothing happens, but yet it works.
Yeah.
But you know, I heavily enjoyed it, and I was glad that I finally got to see it. All I can say is I'm loving the Shin universe.
Yeah, it's been hit after hit for me.
Both movies have been hits, and I know I'm gonna like Shin.
Well,
Kamen
also,
Rider.
Shin Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 was part of that too. It's called Shin Evangelion in Japan.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
The names of the rebuild movies were actually different in Japan versus us here, and it's considered Shin Ultraman. Yeah.
They probably
Not Shin
Evangelion.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Jesus. Shin Evangelion is a better title than 3.0 plus 1.0, but
Thrice Upon a Time.
Thrice Upon a Time. I don't like the rebuild titles. I just don't.
I mean, I love the first one, that You Are Not Alone. I like that one a lot.
That one's a good
personally,
one.
but, yeah.
That is a good one. Yeah, you're right.
Just like I like the bracket of like
Yeah.
text, and I like that. I think
Yeah,
that's just kind
yeah,
of cool.
that's yeah, me too. I did like that. Never mind. But good movie. Glad I saw it.
Yes, sir.
Glad I saw it. I'm looking forward to what else they have
Me too.
up their
Me too.
sleeves. And you know what? They clearly love what they're doing. They're clearly having the time of their life doing it.
Yeah.
I want to know where they're going to go from here. Like, what
Yeah, I mean,
are they
'cause,
going to
yeah.
do? Are we going to get a Shin Spectraman? That would be interesting.
Yeah, because like it's like after Kamen Rider, it's kind of like
A Shin Zone Fighter?
what do we do with this project now?
If we do a Shin Zone Fighter, are we going to have Shin Godzilla come in that one to beat up Shin Gigan?
Oh fuck. Oh shit.
There was a funny post today, because yesterday was April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And somebody posted that in Japan, and some people took this very seriously, and I was like, you guys are so silly. Somebody posted there was a deleted end credit scene in the US release of Shin Ultraman, where out of the body of Shin Gomez, a baby Gomez looking thing pops out, and a crazy scientist comes up and grabs the baby, holds it up to the sun, and says, "Surely this is Shinjiris."
That's funny. I don't know why people get mad about that.
and no, people weren't mad about it. People were taking it seriously because it wasn't until the final two lines where they said, we held it up to the sun and said Shinjiris, quotes Shinjiris, that suddenly people thought it was real until that last bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew this was fake. But I was like,
Yeah.
It's going to be a Jiris joke. It's going to be a Jiris joke. Be a Jiris joke. It is a Jiris joke. And that made me very happy. But, yeah. Cheers to Ultraman.
Cheers to Ultraman.
I've never really been big into Ultraman. I'm very happy that this kind of has reintroduced me to stuff because I love the history of of the genre. I love the history of the people behind it. And it's just so clear that if you have a love for what you're doing, it's going to come off in the movie.
Yeah.
Like you can't convince me otherwise that neither Shin Godzilla nor Shin Ultraman, in a world where it's almost like here in Hollywood, you can almost have an AI make a movie now.
Yeah, that's really a thought that's been bothering me a lot lately.
Yeah. Well, there's just no style. There's no heart to anything.
No, there's no soul. It's like,
Yeah.
because I have been very much in the camp of like the whole AI art thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like legitimately like this is actually something that affected me last week. If you don't want me to go into it just a little bit, is like, look, I'm an amateur artist. Like I do it for fun, and I've been trying to improve and get better at it. And in my credit, I have gotten a little better, but like the whole AI art thing that's been going around has just been annoying me and upsetting me because it's just like actually getting better, and like it went from like, haha, this was a joke, this will never actually be like legitimate, to like now it's just getting even more like, oh no, they're learning hands now, and it's just like this just feels miserable. There's no heart or soul in it, and it's just like,
I agree.
What are we doing? You this is not like, I know everyone could be like, oh, but you can use AI art as a tool, and I'm like, I understand that. To me, I cannot consider that actual art. I just can't do it.
Well, it's like your art style. How would that be done in AI?
Yeah, I don't know. Beats.
Like you have such a distinct style.
Yeah.
That I'm like, you wouldn't have that with AI. The only thing with the AI art that I've genuinely enjoyed is the scenarios that get made.
Yeah.
Which is, what if Star Wars was a 1960s samurai movie?
I think it's fine in cute, fun things like that, where it's stuff like that, or like, this is the big one that's been like, I think even you sent me one of these recently, the voice AI president stuff.
Love that shit.
My friends and I, we've been like binging like a million of them.
the presidential zomboys, yes, that has been my favorite one. I sent you one where they were playing Minecraft while talking about Evangelion. Yeah. And I'm like, of course Trump would be the one who was the like ridiculous Evangelion fanboy. And I'm like,
there was one I watched. It was it was one someone. It was for Joe, and they put original Dragon Ball Z battle music on, and it's like You might think you've won this battle, but I've only been using 15% of my power. Now face my Biden blast! It's edited as if it was like Dragon Ball. I love it.
It's really good. They're really good.
But now here's the other side of the coin. Now that there's like people who want to try and use it as an avenue to be like, this is legitimate art. This is like, I'm gonna sell it.
No.
And I'm like, fuck off. Like, you have no soul put into this. Like,
I'm thinking about making one. I'm thinking about making one of Obama, Trump, Bush, and Joe talking about which Godzilla movie is the best. Or no, who is the best? It's got to be something really niche. That's what makes them really funny. The funniest ones of those are when they're talking about something that's really niche and getting into nitty-gritty detail about it. That's what makes them really funny. And I was going to make which Godzilla director is the best.
Yeah, Adam, I got to send you one that my friend sent me that was
yeah.
It was Joe Trump and Barack playing COD Zombies.
I love how we call them by their first name now.
Yeah, we're on a first name basis.
We're on a first name basis with the presidents now because of these goddamn videos.
But in that one specifically, there's one line, I think it was by the AI for Barack, that it was like, remember Joe was like, I thought we were all going to agree to do all of our chores before logging on to Zombies tonight.
Yes. There's one too where it was like Hillary wanted to join really bad. And they just would not let her in, at all. They would come up with like every excuse not to let Hillary Clinton or Michelle get in.
It's a boys' night. It's a boys'
night. It's the boys' night.
But no.
I think that if the world leaders on the planet genuinely just got together online on Discord and just played some Call of Duty together in multiplayer, I think it would solve.
I think that's
so many problems.
That's the real life good end. They were all friends in the end and just play COD on the weekends.
I know. That's really funny. That's so funny to me. Is that they all are like begrudging friends that just play Call of Duty on the weekends. That's so funny to me.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like,
and I'm like, of course it would be COD.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. But that's really like things. I don't mind it when it's like cute stuff like that. It's just when now that it's like really dipping into like, there's apparently my friend told me like it's getting into music now too, apparently.
It is.
And that's like that to me is like, that's not what that is. It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah, the soul has been taken out of a lot of the stuff. And
then there was also like, I think James Earl Jones too signed away his voice.
He did.
And
his voice.
And that to me is a horrifying thought. I'm just like, no, that's like, to me, breaking like a law of the world.
A lot of rules.
Yeah, that's just, to me, doesn't.
And I'm like, I would rather have. And this is why I hate Disney. Disney drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Like, I don't like this deep fake stuff that they have that they are responsible for making popular.
Yeah, going back to like Mandalorian and like, well, this is specifically the Book of Boba Fett, which that show was fucking dog shit. But there's a sequence with like Luke Skywalker and he's jumping around. It looks horrible. And it feels icky. It feels wrong. I'm just like, I don't.
It does feel wrong.
Yeah, it just feels.
And I mean, mine is still the Peter Cushing thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't like that. I'm like, at that point,
me too.
See, to me, what I would have done is you could still have Tarkin. You could still have Tarkin. Just cast an actor that kind of looks like Peter Cushing.
Yeah, It's
not that hard. The voice actor.
Yeah,
that did the voice for Tarkin. Put a little makeup on him. He'd look pretty damn close.
It's just.
And I'm like, come on. Guys.
It just feels wrong. Like it's.
I mean, we've had recasts in movies before.
Yeah, it's like
why because of a death or because
Adam,
they just weren't
let me correct you real quick
anymore.
for Star Wars at least. Because Solo didn't do well, we are no longer recasting famous characters. That was an actual quote, not me joking around here, which is stupid, but
it is stupid.
It's stupid.
But back to my original point is
that
a lot of these movies feel completely soulless.
Yeah.
And then comes a movie like Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman, which for Shin Ultraman's blemishes, there was a lot of soul put into that movie. There was a lot of love and attention to detail and care put into that movie. And it shows in droves.
Yep, I agree
and Like Pacific Rim too.
Yep.
You know, Pacific
Yep.
Rim is another one. I'd argue Godzilla 2014 as well. I hate to admit it, but even Godzilla King of the Monsters, I think, had more soul in it than a lot of those Marvel movies in particular.
I agree with you.
But it's I hate to sound like this guy because I've made so many videos campaigning on the fact that it's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to pick the right filmmakers. But Shin Ultraman once again proved Japanese know how to do it. And they do it pretty much right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. But on that note, I'm going to throw out the break really quick. And I think we have time. Yeah, we do. We can go on to our next topic, which is all about Gamera. Is it Gamera Rebirth? Is that the official
I think
title
it's
of it?
Rebirth.
We're going to talk about Gamera Rebirth.
Ooh.
Alrighty. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. And we are back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining the stream, I am joined by my friend Lucas Schloth, and we just reviewed Shin Ultraman, so you missed that entire conversation, but lucky for you, if you did, this will be available on video on demand, so you can watch it later, and hopefully by then we'll actually have some timestamps in this, so you don't have to just randomly scroll around. I love timestamps on YouTube right now. That all being said, apparently earlier I mentioned a post in a couple of groups about Shinjiris. And evidently, that guy is in the chat. Your post made me laugh. It actually made me genuinely lol. So, props to you, man. But it made me laugh. Glad you're here. Glad you're in the chat, and glad you seem to be having a good time. And thank you for coming out. Well, anyways, Lucas.
Hi, that's me.
I cut that perfectly.
Yo, did you guys know?
So yeah, I just cut that perfectly because in the moment I cut to the split screen, you turned and went hi. It was mwah.
Excellent.
But so it's finally happening, Lucas.
Yes. Yep.
After 20 years, 30 years. After 30 years.
It was it was 30 years ago. Is that the Titanic line? Is that the?
Yeah. No, it was like 100 years ago, but actually no, it was 20 years. It's been 20 years. After 20 years. We're finally getting new Gamera.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is
but
exciting.
I do have to preference. This is kind of now where our roles flop a little bit here. Whereas Gamera, I'm not as well versed as. I have watched some of it growing up. I was, as a kid, was traumatized by the first Heisei one scared me a lot as a kid. And I watched some of the Showa stuff, but I'm not like a super expert on Gamera.
I am.
I'm like, I am. Be gone.
Well, I love there was a joke that I made. I don't think you were even on it, but I remember there's one joke where I said, "Yeah, I think you were on the stream. Never mind. It was we were talking Godzilla, And I was like, yeah, I really wanted to have like you, Antonio. It never happened, but I wanted to have like you, Antonio on, because Antonio is just a novice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't really know anything about Godzilla. Then there's you, who knows a decent amount about Godzilla. And then there's me, who's God tier.
It's me who's God tier.
Just gonna blow my own
I
trumpet.
I can't argue with you. You're right. I ain't gonna argue with you with this, bro. I'm fine.
Way to...
I know
Adam
my
just
place.
came off as the most arrogant son of a bitch on the face of the planet.
You kidding me?
But you have not seen the Heisei Gamera.
I have not seen them in full. No.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do a virtual.
It's a
movie
shame because like I legitimately, and I think everyone says this, so it's not really that crazy. I think Iris is such a cool fucking design. I think Iris is fucking sick. Like,
they are the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, I have heard
of kaiju
I have heard
films.
nothing but Universal. I just haven't.
And for the record,
Yeah.
you really like Godzilla GMK, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna love Heisei Gamera.
Yeah. I've heard.
Yeah. If you love GMK,
Yeah.
which I do,
Yeah.
you're gonna love Heisei Gamera. In fact, it took me a while to get here because I'm always biased towards Godzilla. I always have been.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to objectively get here. I think Heisei Gamera is better than Heisei Godzilla.
Damn.
And Heisei Godzilla is my favorite.
Yeah,
of the
that's
era. I don't
heavyweight
care
because
what
also
anyone
to
says.
me Heisei Godzilla has fucking Destroyer, so it's like
Yeah,
that alone is just like, damn, that's a big statement, dude.
Well, it's just on a filmmaking level and on a writing standpoint, it's so good.
Which I can understand totally. I can get it.
And this may make me sound shallow because I love the writing in a lot of the Heisei Godzilla films, even the weaker ones. There's still stuff in the scripts that I'm like, that's really good. I really liked that. Like how when Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, I love that our characters are actually doing stuff and not just watching the fight. I love stuff like that, and I like that. But in terms of Gamera, Heisei Gamera, just how they shot, despite the fact that Gamera is significantly shorter than Heisei Godzilla, significantly, they make the monsters look huge.
Mm-hmm.
Just how they're shot. Like, there's one in Gamera too that's really cool. It's a high angle looking down at an army guy driving, looking up at Gamera walking, and it cuts to a low angle miniature interior of a car, like it's looking out a window, looking up at Gamera walking through a miniature set, and it cuts perfectly.
Yeah, that's sick.
And it really sets the tone that these are giant fucking monsters. The special effects for those movies were done by Shinji Higuchi.
Yeah.
You know?
I get
it. Yeah. So, and directed by Shizuke Kaneko. I mean, it was a match made in heaven. But, it's almost as good as Shinji Higuchi and Hideaki Anno. Almost. Not quite, but almost. That being said, finally some new Gamera.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think the turtle has deserved some love, and I'm very happy that he's gotten the love, especially with the Arrow release of all the franchise. It was like Arrow was like, you see what Criterion did with Godzilla, Showa Godzilla?
And then just flex on him. Like,
totally did. And granted, I know the history with that. You know, I understand that wasn't really Criterion anywhere near as much as it was Toho.
Yeah.
But like the Arrow release for all the Gamera movies, for all the Gamera movies, audio commentaries, a buttload of special features, consistent artwork, so everything looks like it fits into one package, like it should. And I think that release started bringing Gamera back into the limelight again. Because do you remember several years ago now, they released like this concept trailer?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
And it didn't go over well.
Mm-hmm.
Or the numbers weren't what Katakawa wanted. Since Daiei no longer exists, it's now Katakawa.
Mm-hmm.
And what was very interesting about that is that looked pretty cool. That trailer looked pretty cool. but it didn't generate enough interest. But because of, and we might disagree with this on this, I'm not sure, but
Sure.
I personally think the fact that I love the streaming wars that are happening right now.
Interesting.
I love it because I love the fact that so much niche shit is being made now, for good and for bad,
Okay.
that stuff can really target me. That I really
Yeah,
enjoy.
I can get that take.
And I think it's because of that and the success of the Godzilla anime trilogy, at least online.
Yeah.
The Godzilla anime trilogy,
Singular Point.
Singular
Yeah.
Point, that we're getting an anime Gamera series.
Yeah, I can totally get that take completely. I can understand that.
Yeah, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's just because of that has allowed us to get it.
Yeah.
And it makes me very happy that the Giant Turtle is starting to get more love, not just because of this, but because of the Arrow release. A lot of people are suddenly watching these movies and being like, "These movies are fucking insane. I love them."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's good time to be a kaiju fan.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
I agree with you too that it's like I feel like Gamera deserves this. Gamera as a franchise just kind of deserves this release.
I think Gamera deserves more respect than he gets.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that.
And there's a lot of that because he was also the first to challenge the King of the Monsters. The first
Yeah.
to do it. Does he succeed? No. But he's
They beat it now.
no. Like nothing in the Showa era, even the best of the Showa era, like Gamera versus Barugan,
Yeah.
which is genuinely a phenomenal movie, does not hold a candle to some of the early Godzilla movies. Visually it does. Visually it's spectacular. But yeah, it's like the first movie, Gamera the Giant Monster, is literally a run-of-the-mill giant monster movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't do anything original other than make a turtle fly.
Oh yeah.
That's all it does, and it wasn't trying to be anything else. It was just trying to see, is there a market for it other than Godzilla? And it proved that there was, because that movie was a gargantuan hit. Almost all of the Gamera movies, just because of how low the budgets got on them, were big hits. They were moneymakers.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of the things keeping Daiei afloat. But even then, they couldn't save it because of horrible mismanagement. But that's another thing. It's actually a comical story, but I'm very happy. So, what were your first reactions, Lucas, to seeing the trailer?
So my first reactions to the trailer was pretty straightforward reaction, just kind of like, okay, this is cool, because I feel like the trailer is for the most part pretty bare bones in what it's showing off to. It's kind of just showing off kind of the most basic stuff that it needs to. I thought Gamera is fucking huge in this movie. He seems fucking massive.
It's like Godzilla Earth.
Yeah, like he seems huge and just like not messing around, just go like, nah, we're finishing this right here now. Now, the one thing I will say is I think the monsters look pretty good. I will be that guy. I think the humans look a little rough.
100% agree.
I think the humans look a little rough.
It's the same. I think it's the same company that did Pacific Rim: The Black.
I'm not we'd have to double check that. I'm not sure, but
because it looks very similar.
okay, yeah, because I don't know how I feel about the human designs. Maybe when you start watching it, you can kind of get past it and kind of like get into it, and it'll be fine.
Well,
but I'm a little concerned about that aspect.
I had that with the anime trilogy. What you're feeling, and I got past that.
I actually kind of didn't have that. I thought the humans look fine in that anime trilogy, to be perfectly honest with you. They're kind of going for, it seems like the humans are a little more stylized rather than more kind of straightforward like anime look that the humans have in the anime trilogy for Godzilla, which again isn't a bad thing. I just, right now from the snippets we've seen, I'm not totally loving that. But it could be a case where I need to just watch an episode or two and then I'll be like, oh, okay, it's fine. We can get into this.
See, I did have that with Pacific Rim: The Black, which I loved.
Yeah,
by the way.
I still
really,
have stuff to watch.
I did an entire video about everything I liked about Pacific Rim: The Black. Is a perfect no,
Yeah.
but it was a good show.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And to me, that's what I got out of. I almost said Shin Gamera. Gamera Rebirth is it reminded me of Pacific Rim: The Black, where it's from the point of view of kids again.
Yeah.
And I actually, one of the best comparisons I read about the trailer is, okay, so we're getting Stranger Things meets Gamera. I'm in.
Okay, yeah. That fits for Gamera. It's just, he's friend to all children,
Yeah. But yeah, it's... I'm kind of sick of the Stranger Things trope.
Yeah, I get that too.
And I'm calling it the Stranger Things trope because Stranger Things made it popular again, where it's a group of teenagers,
like ragtag kids and teenagers
getting into something way over their head, and them trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And that's clearly what this is.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that.
And I'm kind of sick of that trope. I like how Godzilla's Singular Point handled it way more.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was a bunch of weirdos
yeah.
who are way smarter than the average Joe of all ages, kind of getting smashed together, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
and I kind of like that dynamic a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the other comparison I saw was, okay, so this is E.T. meets Gamera. We're okay.
All right.
I love their choices of monsters. I mean, of course they were going to go with Gauss.
Yeah,
Gauss
Gauss
is like
gonna
Gamera's
happen.
Ghidorah. Gauss is like Gamera's Ghidorah.
Who was the one that was shown off recently in the trailer? It was...
There's Legion.
Yeah, there's Legion.
Which is from Gamera 2, Advent of Legion, which is the second Heisei movie.
Yeah.
And then there's Jiger.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. The one I was just trying...
I love Jiger.
Yeah.
Jiger has the most terrifying monster roar I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I know I've sent it to you to listen to.
I remember.
Jiger is from Gamera vs. Jiger, which came out in 1971. And Jiger is apparently a female.
Oh.
Yeah, because the whole thing in Gamera vs. Jiger is Jiger stabs Gamera with its tail and impregnates Gamera with a
eggs.
Yeah, it's like a wasp.
Yeah, kind of like a xenomorph.
And I'm like, that's creepy. But of course, the movie plays it up as a joke, and kids in a tiny submarine go in through Gamera's mouth, and I'm like, wow, this is insane. I love it. They did Fantastic Voyage in a Gamera movie. Okay, I'm sold. But yeah. So I'm curious if they will play that up.
Yeah,
in this movie,
we obviously don't
in the show.
have too much to work on right now, but we have our first big piece of besides just the reveal poster they did months ago. Our first
Shut up, Justin. Shut the fuck up, Justin.
What had happened?
Actually, it was 1970.
Damn.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going after the American television release. I'm so fucking sorry.
So anyway, Gamera.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, I think the designs overall for the monsters are pretty good.
I'm gonna look them up. I can't remember. Jiger's looks cool.
Yeah, I think Gamera looks great. Just a cool
Legion looks like Legion. I mean, look at that monster in the Heisei series, and how the fuck do you describe it? Anyways, and Gauss looks like Gauss.
Yeah.
So I read one comment where it said the Gauss designs is very inspired by the 2016 short trailer that got released, and I can see it.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah. Let me type the Gamera Rebirth. Yeah, it kind of looks like to me Gamera. Yeah, it looks kind of like Godzilla Earth, but with Gamera.
Yeah. Definitely way less
big,
way less tree-like.
bulky.
But he seems a lot bulkier and just really
Well, they're going. It looks like they're going for more of a snapping turtle look. Maybe. No.
Nah, it still kind of looks like Gamera. Like.
Oh no, it definitely looks like Gamera.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, for God's sakes, all you need to do is a giant turtle with those two
Yeah.
tusks. You know. But yeah, I really. Yeah. I don't know. I'm super. I'm gonna
Oh,
watch
I mean,
the
yeah,
fuck
I'm
out of
gonna,
this when
without
this
a
comes
doubt,
out.
I'll watch it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just other like, obviously, there's just not a whole lot to go off of right now. And it's definitely a look. It's definitely a different look. Like, it at least stands out on its own compared to like, again, something like the Godzilla anime trilogy or something.
Right. So yeah, we definitely have Legion and Gauss. Legion looks like Legion. They literally just copied and pasted that from Heisei series. Yeah, Gauss looks more like a dragon.
Yeah.
Than he has in other iterations.
I'm
where he's supposed to
reviewing
be
it
like
too
a
right now. Also, just like watching
bat.
the trilogy.
When before they really gave him like a bat look. Like in the Showa era, he definitely is copied after a bat.
Yeah, I like too with Gamera. I like the like kind of green shading he has too. I think it just looks nice.
He's always had a green shading.
Yeah.
It's always been super dark.
Yeah, but it's way. I feel like it's way more like prominent. In this
which is
design.
really funny. Everybody thinks Godzilla's green, but he's not. He's black or
yeah,
charcoal gray.
yeah.
Usually, there's only one time he's green, and that's Godzilla 2000 Megaguirus.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gamera's always been green, right from the get-go. He even has green blood.
Ooh, I do remember. I do remember the blood. I do remember seeing that.
Oh my god, the amount of gore in Showa Gamera is comical.
I mean, I know the. I don't remember the kaiju's name. The one with the axe head. The scene with him when he.
Guiron?
Yeah, when he
Guiron.
beheads another one, and it's like really violent.
Yeah, like it's for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's really funny about that too is after he's done totally eviscerating Space Gauss's body, he picks up a piece. He picks up a piece and smells it, throws it, and goes. Rrr, rrr. And I'm like, how only in the Showa era anything could something like that work, or could something like that even exist?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were talking about on the X from Outer Space review that we did, where we're like, this could not have existed in any other time period than 60s Japan.
Yeah, like, that movie is a time capsule, and it'll.
I really recommend, if you get a chance, just listen to David Callett's audio commentary for Gamera versus Guiron.
Okay.
Of course, he would choose that movie to do an audio commentary for. Because that's his forte, is trying to make something that's utterly ridiculous and pull out all the positives of it. Mm-hmm. And his commentary not only gives me a lot of respect for the creator, Noriaki Iwasa, the director and writer for a lot of these. No, he didn't write them. It was another guy. Can't remember his name. But it gave me a lot more of an appreciation for him. Even if I don't really care for the movies, it made me appreciate his work significantly more, because I'm a firm believer that you don't necessarily need to like their work, but you can still respect the crap out of them for what they create. And his audio commentary, one, it's a good listen. Like, he's extremely entertaining to listen to. Really chill, funny, definitely a nerd, and definitely somebody who loves talking about this shit. Listen to it. It is on YouTube for free. Okay. You can listen to it.
I'll definitely like if I need to throw something on, like while I'm working on something.
It's a fantastic listen. He also did the audio comment. He did my favorite audio commentary of all time for Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster on the classic media releases. Okay. He did the audio commentary for that. He also did the audio commentary for the original Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters on the Criterion release. Oh, cool. Yeah, all of them phenomenal. He also did the audio commentary for the European release of Mothra, Battle in Outer Space, and the H-Man.
Okay.
And I have them all. All of them great audio commentaries in their own ways. Definitely a good guy to listen to. My biggest inspiration in terms of my presentation style, too. I'm more dry than he is, admittedly.
Okay.
I think I'm more dry, and I think I'm more straightforward than he is. But I try to emulate his energy when it comes to trying to make his work entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
I know this is like a complete tangent, but there are so many audio commentaries that sure, they're full of great information. I can't listen to them because they are so boring.
Yeah.
Classic media has that in droves. The two audio commentaries that come to my mind is the one for Godzilla's Revenge and then the one for Terror of Mechagodzilla. Two movies in which the audio commentary could have been amazing. Awful.
Damn.
Because the guy who's doing them is so dry and so boring.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, it's because they have to read off a script because Toho needs to approve it. I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. David Callett is clearly reading off a script, and it's the most entertaining thing ever. You know? Yeah. It's all about presentation, and I try to bring that energy into whatever I do. Whenever I'm doing something where I have to talk. But yeah. Anyways, sorry about that tangent.
All good.
I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, there's not much else I can really say.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at too.
Yeah, but I'm just so glad that we're finally getting some Gamera, because I think the turtle deserves it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you in that, where it's like, I feel like this franchise deserves something, and this is a good starting point. Maybe if it does well, maybe another season, or maybe something bigger on the horizon. You know, like, that's what we can hope for.
I hope it's like Gamera the Brave. Because Gamera the Brave is another one of those movies where it's certainly darker and more serious than Showa Gamera, but it has kids as the main protagonists, young kids at that. But it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good, heartwarming movie. And I hope it's like that. I really do. I hope the show is like that. Is this a mini-series, or is this actually...
It's 6 episodes.
6, so it's, I say that's a mini-series.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's a good length.
Yeah.
That's a good length. You could do a lot with 6 episodes.
Yeah. So long as it's all tightly knit together and just flows as it should, it'll be fine.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great. Or I think it'll be good. I mean, I defend Pacific Rim: The Black more than most people do. And I enjoyed that. I know we're not getting a season 2, it looks like, but
I still have to give that show a chance. I just, like, again, Uprising burned me so hard on Pacific Rim content. It's just like I've been hurt. Like, it's like I can't just walk back and be like, "Hi everyone, I'm here." That movie is fucking dog shit. And it completely missed the point of what made Pacific Rim so great. I
do have a question though for you.
Hi.
Now, I agree with you, by the way, about Pacific Rim. But so Lucas, you actually did bring up something that was very interesting. You commented how Gamera is freakishly big.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on the fact that these monsters just seem like they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger?
Well, I think we've had this conversation before, and my stake on it has always been, I don't really think making it bigger makes it better. I think it really just depends on the story you're telling. Like, to me, like, I understand why Godzilla Earth was as big as it was, because it made sense for the story they were telling. Whereas, like, why did, like, and I'm saying this as someone who likes, I like the MonsterVerse stuff, even though it is pretty not great at times. But why did we have to keep making Godzilla bigger in each movie?
Well, it started, for me anyways, in the Heisei series.
That's fair.
In the Heisei series, because when he came back in 84, he was 280 feet tall, and then Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah happens, and now he's 320 feet tall. And to me, that's what sparked the whole thing. And it's really funny, because if you watch Godzilla 2000, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, and GMK, no, actually most of, all but Final Wars of the Millennium era, Godzilla is back to his Showa era height.
Yeah.
And it worked fine.
Yeah.
Especially in GMK.
Yeah.
In GMK, Godzilla kicked some fucking ass in that movie.
He was terrifying.
And he wasn't much taller than he was in the Showa era. And to me, I feel like kind of a hypocrite, because in my Godzilla saga, Godzilla's 280 feet tall. That I said I'm going with the original Heisei height. because I thought it was a good middle ground. But I don't understand why he needs to be so freakishly tall. I even had that. I even had that in Shin Godzilla, believe it or not. Like, if there's a blemish that I can really point out in Shin Godzilla, is why is he so big? He doesn't need to be that big to be scary.
I've never really been in the camp of just like I don't think we need to keep making him bigger and bigger per each incarnation, because I think in general, like, Godzilla alone is a giant threat in the universe. Like, say if we're going by how big he is in like a Showa movie, like that's still a pretty big deal.
Right.
Like it's still a pretty big threat. So I feel like it's just like increasing his height, unless it has something to do with the story. Like, for example, like I said, like, that's one thing with the anime trilogy. I can understand why Godzilla Earth is so huge. I can get that in that universe. I can understand that. Just making him bigger for the sake of making him bigger, I don't feel like adds too much. I feel like there's no, like, it's cool, he's bigger,
the reason they do have a justifiable reason why they made Godzilla bigger for the Heisei era, and that's because the buildings had gotten so much bigger since the 60s and 70s that they said Godzilla needs to be bigger or else he's going to look so tiny.
Okay.
I kind of get that. It's just all how you've got to shoot it. Because, again, GMK, look at that. They made him look big and scary, and he's not much bigger.
With that, too, if it's the case of, like, it's the buildings got bigger, I can understand that, because it's like that's a deliberate choice. It's like, okay, the buildings got bigger, so maybe this incarnation of Godzilla has to be kind of bigger. Okay, I can understand that.
And there's a consequence to that, too.
Yeah.
The consequence of that is that if you look at the miniature work in the Heisei era in general, I think it doesn't hold a candle to some of the stuff that we saw in the Showa era.
Yeah.
Because the monsters were smaller, you can make your miniature buildings bigger.
Yeah.
And that means a lot more detail.
Yeah.
Like one of the big things I remember is in Invasion of Astro Monster, Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, where Godzilla is storming through a bunch of buildings. The shingles.
Yeah.
Flying off. Little tiny shingles flying off of it. And I'm like, that's detail that I just adore. And in the Heisei era, you don't have that. To me, the Heisei era, and I've said this before, and I actually did a video about this recently. I did a video called it was 2 videos, the quintessential Godzilla movies that best represent the era that came from. From the Heisei era, I chose Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, because I've specifically said these weren't my favorite films from the era.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
They are which film best represents that. In the Showa era, I split with the 50s, 60s, and 70s. For the 70s, I literally had to flip a coin. And Godzilla vs. Megalon won.
What was the other one?
Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 74.
Oh, I'm upset. I'm upset.
No, I still think I made the right decision because what is Godzilla known for? And what made him a pop culture icon? It was Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Yeah.
People think Megalon more than they think Mechagodzilla. But when I was talking about the Heisei era, I said this is my favorite era, despite the fact that I don't think it visually holds a candle to the Showa era.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, it's all comes down to story and character. That makes me forget about that.
Yeah.
And that's what sells it. You know, does the character work or not? That's what it all comes down to when it comes to size. Does excuse me.
Yeah, that's kind of what. Oh no, that's kind of what I was trying to say too. Where it's like, if it's a deliberate reason and it helps the character, that's fine. But when it's just like you're making him bigger for the sake of making him bigger, cool, I guess. But like, what is that?
And you know what? Granted, I think in the Godzilla anime trilogy, as flawed as it is, Godzilla has a fucking presence throughout that entire series.
That's what I was saying. That was my biggest example for this. Was that like, I totally get the choice in that one. That is a very deliberate choice.
The opening of the first movie, where you see the main character look over, and you just see the silhouette of Godzilla approaching. Terrifying.
Isn't there also like in the first one too, wasn't there like a plot point? I haven't watched it in years, so it's like I don't entirely remember.
Yeah.
Where they think they kill Godzilla, but it was actually just a smaller one, and then the real one, like the bigger Godzilla, shows up. And wasn't that a plot? Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a cool reveal. Like that was sick. Like.
Yep. It was really cool. You bring up a good point in the chat. They did the flying creatures better in the Showa era than they did the Heisei. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Mothra comes to mind. Literally, Mothra has never looked as good as she does than in Mothra vs. Godzilla 1964. She is so beautifully animated. One of the best cases of puppet work I've ever seen in anything, ever. And that includes Aliens with the Queen. The way how Mothra moves and the way how she's alive, the way how she flies. And King Ghidorah, too. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think can come close to comparing to how good the wire works was for Ghidorah in the early Showa era is maybe Biollante.
Oh, but yeah, Biollante is really good.
I think Biollante is another great example of some really good. One of the best sumations I've ever seen is Biollante.
Oh, I mean, like, to me, like, the crowning jewel shot in that movie is when Biollante charges at
When
Godzilla.
Biollante charges, it looks...
that to me is, like, that's, like, the money shot in that movie.
Yeah, it really is. It's really good. There's so many... It's really too bad. I wish the rest of the Heisei era had that level of creativeness in terms of how they shot the monsters. Because if you look at as the Heisei era went along, the cinematography for the monsters got flatter and flatter.
Yeah, it kind of like also like kind of homogenized too over the films as they went on.
And a lot of that is because of the rushed nature of those movies.
Yeah.
So they just had to shoot and go, and they had a lot to do, no time to do it, and little money to do it. Well, actually, no, I can't say. They had huge budgets for Japan at the time, but it was still unbelievably tight for them. But yeah, you look at Godzilla vs. Biollante, and that film is so creatively shot. Sometimes the special effects don't work. It's the fact that they were trying to figure out what worked and what didn't. It really started to get flat with King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
That's when the beige, bland colors, the grays started coming out more.
I think too, also like in Biollante, a great shot in that movie is just like the reoccurring shot of Roseform Biollante and the way it's lit. I think that shot's fucking awesome.
I will say this, the Heisei era has several great composite shots where the camera will pan and suddenly you'll see a monster in the background. And I'm like, that's so difficult to do. Combining two shots together and then panning up to make it work. Biollante has several of those shots, but throughout the entire Heisei era, there's several of those shots. Because normally when you have two shots where you're combining the special effects with live action, the shot is just static. Because that's the best way you're going to be able to do that. Especially back then. Even in the 90s. But in the 90s, there's something that Koichi Kawakita did that every once in a while, there'd be a great whip pan shot. Or a tilt shot. There's one with where you see Rose form Biollante for the first time. You see our characters walk out into the dock, and all of a sudden the camera pans up, and there's Biollante. And I'm like, that's a great shot.
Yeah.
And the Heisei era has several of those. Granted, they have several of those. But even like Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which is my third favorite Godzilla movie, by the way.
That's like
pretty flat-looking monster scenes. Pretty flat-looking monster scenes. In terms of how they're shot. And by what I mean by flat is the camera is usually positioned in a way where it's very...
It's not dynamic.
Level.
Yeah.
It's very level. It's not like down low. Looking up. It's very level. Almost TV looking. Like it was shot for TV.
Yeah.
Still love it though.
It's that.
Yeah.
I have said it before. Like Godzilla vs. Destroyer is like one of, if not my favorite, and it's so hard for me to. It's so hard for me to say a bad thing about that movie. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
It really is, because as much as I just complained about that, what that movie does right, it does so right.
Oh my god, Adam.
Now I was going to pick that for the definitive Heisei movie, but I decided against it because I think the movie only works as well as it does if you're more familiar with the character.
I actually can understand that too.
And that era in particular, because it's such a beautiful accumulation of that particular era. And Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, you can literally just jump right into that. It's about the origins of Godzilla, of this Godzilla.
Yeah.
And also, that's another movie where Godzilla's only in the film for 9 minutes, but boy howdy, does it feel like his movie from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
I'm not going to lie, Lucas. I have a very hard time picking between that and Destroya.
I understand.
I love King Ghidorah. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
That one, it just seems like it's up your alley.
like it's got everything I love it. It's got secret underground organizations. I remember saying this in the video too. I was like, this movie's balls to the wall insane. I said, look, it's got time travel, androids, evil corporations that are building nuclear submarines, World War II, Mecha King Ghidorah, and a partridge in a pear tree. And yet, plot holes and all, it works.
Yeah.
It worked. It's also very popular. It's a very popular movie. It's one of the more popular Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
And it's got Shindo, who I think Shindo is an unbelievably fascinating human character to study. But anyways, what were we talking about? We're talking about Gamera.
we went somewhere, or we were talking about Godzilla sizes, and then we went off on a whole thing.
Yeah, of course, because that's what we do. Once we get off
it happens.
Once we get off the main topic, that's when it
derails into
absolutely derails. We'll end this at 11. So yeah, I was just like, what are your Lucas? Since we're basically done talking about Gamera,
okay.
Tell me, what are your thoughts on Godzilla 2000? Like, on the whole.
I liked it when I watched it growing up. I need to really sit down and rewatch it because I haven't seen it. I really like Orga. I will also add that too.
Now, I guarantee you haven't seen the Japanese version.
I have not seen the Japanese version.
Yeah. There's a big debate in the Godzilla community.
I think you've talked to me about this.
I've done an entire video about it, too. This is why I haven't done Godzilla vlogs forever, ladies and gentlemen. It's because it's like, what else am I going to fucking talk about? Come on.
The difference in between Godzilla's feet from Godzilla 2014 to King of the Monsters.
I am thinking about remaking a video, kind of speaking about that. I am thinking about making a video where I go through every Godzilla suit and just talk about its strengths and weaknesses. And
that's actually not a bad idea.
Because I've done the video before on my other channel. You know, before I even made AN Productions, it was on Chopper Pilot 5. And I'm like, you know what? I could remake that video. It's like, I'm getting to the point where it's like I'm thinking about remaking some of my older videos because either my opinion has changed significantly, changed some, or I just think I can do it better. I can do this better and I can present my arguments better. But yeah, it's more is there really to talk about. But the thing with Godzilla 2000 is I think the American version is so much better than the Japanese version. It is really interesting watching the two movies side by side because they are so similar and yet so different.
Yeah.
To me, the Japanese version feels like a rough cut.
Interesting.
Yeah, it feels like a rough cut. I think the sound design is wrong in several parts. Like, it's just not there. And a lot of that has to do with the rushed nature of the production. Even though it's the same movie, it tells the same exact story in both versions. It's just the American version has something that the Japanese version doesn't, and that's character. It feels more like a well-rounded movie. The Japanese version is a much more straightforward giant monster movie. The American version made it a little campier, but to me, not in a bad way at all.
Yeah, I can get what you're saying.
And I also understand the argument. A lot of people consider it a perfect middle-of-the-road Godzilla movie because it doesn't do anything crazy new, while it doesn't just retread old water. It's a perfect middle-of-the-road Godzilla movie because that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only thing that I think the movie really went balls to the wall on, in terms of its radicalization and trying to do something new, was the design of Godzilla himself.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually something I really actually have always liked, that design of
Me
Godzilla.
too.
Not as like my definitive Godzilla, but I think it looks really cool. I think it's a really cool design. I like the purple dorsal fins, like
Well, you don't even really notice the purple dorsal fins in 2000. It's only in Mega Garrus that you really notice it.
okay.
But you're right. He does have the purple dorsal fins.
Yeah, I like more like crocodilian kind of head a little bit too.
He's green
Yeah.
in that
Yeah,
one
like
too.
I think it's a cool design. It's, again,
I
it's not
think
necessarily like my
you
definitive.
said
but
crocodilian. You know what I see?
What do you see?
Feline.
Feline.
Yeah, particularly in the eyes.
Interesting. Interesting.
I think he looks kind of eyes and the ears.
The ears, yeah. I can get the ears a little bit.
Kind of looks like a cat to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of, well, granted, I also think Final Wars Godzilla looks like a rat. But
I actually can see that one a little bit now that you're saying it.
that I'll tell you what, that's the design that's grown on me the most out of all the Godzilla suits. I think is that one.
I always thought the Final Wars design was a nice kind of like meeting of a good majority of Godzilla design philosophies.
Well, I think it fits Final Wars because that's supposed to be the martial arts Godzilla.
Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying.
So of course he's going to look thinner.
Yeah.
And more lean. And I think it works. My issue with that design, though, is that because he's supposed to be doing all of this stuff, right? He's supposed to be doing all these flips and everything like that. They had to use significantly lighter material to make the suit. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I think the suit looks unbelievably plastic.
Yeah,
I think the detail of the suit, I don't think is as good as the other iterations. And I just don't think it... Well, I think plastic's the way to word it. Like, it literally looks like its scales are made out of plastic instead of them looking like scales. Like, you look at my second favorite design of all time for Godzilla is the one from Against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. I love that design.
Oh, really? Is that the one that like it has like kind of like the frill on the neck a little bit?
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little indifferent towards that. I like the frill bothers me a little bit. It looks fine for the most part. I don't know, like the neck is where
I think it's a good breed, a good hybrid between Godzilla 2000 and the Heisei era.
Yeah, I can get it.
Because it's more upright than 2000. 2000 definitely was more hunched over in like attack posture. But it also has the coloration and the it has the scales and the spikes and the eyes of 2000, of the 2000 design, while it has the posture and overall stance of Heisei. And I really like that. Except he doesn't do this.
The Heisei hands.
The Heisei hands.
Yeah. That's a term my friend and I use all the time.
Well, I love how I never really noticed it until it was brought up in a documentary. And
really?
Yeah. And all of a sudden now I can't unsee it.
I literally, when we were like rewatching a bunch of Heisei movies on like just like weekends we were hanging out, I noticed it. I was like, he's doing that in all these movies.
Heisei hands.
Wait a minute.
Granted, you know, he really didn't have an easy job. I'd say he had an even harder job than like Haruo Nakajima in the 60s, because like how heavy and bulky those suits were. Like, how can you act in that? How can you act in that? And yet somehow
I'm not saying that as like a slight. I'm just saying it's like it's something I've always noticed about the suits.
Yeah. Though I will always say I think Haruo Nakajima will always be the definitive Godzilla actor. As much as I love Kenshiro Satsuma, who did Heisei, as much as I love him, because he is my favorite Godzilla, you know, that is my favorite era. The amount of character Haruo Nakajima brought out into Godzilla throughout all of those movies is just
totally
amazing. Just amazing. Particularly, I think his best performance isn't Godzilla. I think his best performance is Gaira from War of the Gargantuas.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And the reason why I think it's my favorite is because that's his eyes. you see in that suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the science. Well,
Definitely.
well, Lucas, it's about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's about that time, Adam.
About that time. Oh, man. Martin, yeah, you missed everything. We're wrapping up,
sorry.
buddy.
But hey, apparently he hadn't seen Shin Ultraman yet, so he didn't get anything spoiled.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
If you go back, you might want to avoid that section.
You might want to avoid
there
that.
are some spoilers.
A lot of them.
For almost the whole movie.
Yep, especially the twist. But okay. Good old dick twists. I don't know if have you seen that video?
What? What are you talking?
Have you seen that? Oh my god!
That sounds familiar.
So it's like this guy is at like a wrestle thing, a wrestling match, and there's this guy screaming behind him, "Take his dick and twist it!" And he stands up and he's like, "Yeah, twist that dick. Good old dick twist." But we did answer the definitive question, and that is Ultraman. Is Ultraman naked or not?
It did. Yeah, I think we did.
I think we did.
Yeah. Finally,
it is.
We did
it
it
is absolutely unanimous.
Everyone, we did it. We can now all go to bed tonight.
We can all go to bed
well
tonight.
rested.
I think we solved world hunger with this answer.
Adam, I don't think we just solved world hunger. I think we're gonna wake up tomorrow morning and everyone's gonna be shaking hands. Yeah. There's gonna be peace. All the nuclear weapons are gonna be gone.
Are gonna be gone. The war in the Ukraine's over. Putin is actually going to renounce everything. He's going to turn himself in.
Yeah,
it's world peace.
No more water crisis here.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone has clean water.
AIDS cured.
Oh, thank God.
Cancer
what
no
else?
longer a thing because we answered.
Obliterated. God.
Because we answered. Is Ultraman naked or not? We're not going to tell you the answer. You're going to have to go back.
Yeah, you're going to have to do some homework.
You're going to have to do some homework. You're going to have to go back because this is the important stuff. Of course, this is when everybody starts tuning in.
No, you guys.
You guys. Come on. Anyways, Lucas, if you could pimp yourself out, please do.
Gladly, Adam. I'll gladly do that. Alrighty, everybody. Hello, hi. I'm Lucas. I'm your little local funny man. I have a channel called Pow Pop. I do streams there really for the most part right now. I'm hoping to make some kind of video content soon. Just not really sure what I'm going to do for it, but I'm having fun with the streams. I'm currently playing the Resident Evil 4 remake, and this week is probably going to be 2 streams of that. I might do a 3rd stream because I forgot I'm off 2 days this week. But look forward to that. I also have my main Twitter, which is @LScribbleShack. I post art there, and I usually put updates from my channel there too. There is also a Pow Pop Twitter, but I'm probably going to get rid of that fairly soon. And just use @LScribbleShack as my main hub for my content. And yeah, that's what you have to look forward to for me right now.
Well, it makes me very happy that I work 4 10-hour days, so I get a 3-day weekend.
Hell yeah.
So I really love having a 3-day weekend. I didn't think I'd love it as much as I do, but I do. Well, Lucas, I wish to really thank you for joining me.
Of course, Adam.
All of my stuff is in the description below, because of course it is. This is my goddamn channel, so I don't really need to pimp myself out, since you're here already. I know I've said this before, Lucas, but it really tickles my pickle that you are streaming as much as you are.
Thank you.
I love it when my friends stream. Even Jim Frasca started to stream too.
I tuned in his for a little bit. I unfortunately was out when he was doing it, but I tuned in just to see how he was doing and like.
I think he said he reached out to you on a few things.
Yeah, no, Jim is he's been talking with me, just like asking for like tips and stuff like about equipment and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I hope that keeps going well for him too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a work in progress. I love doing these streams. I'm glad I'm back to doing these streams once a month. I really miss doing these because these are a lot of fun. But thank you so much for joining, Lucas. Thank you very much.
Of course.
All right, bringing it back to me right now. Today on this A&P live stream, just to wrap this up, we talked about Shin Ultraman. Then we talked about the new Gamera Rebirth, and then we just went on a bunch of tangents because, of course, that's what we do here at AN Productions once the stream happens. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned next month. The first Sunday of every month is when I do these. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will see you later. Peace out, Cub Scouts.